Chapter 51. The vast forest at the southern foot of the Angelia Mountains, which is located far away on the border between the kingdom and the empire, is called the Dowa Forest. The part in the northern part of the forest where the lower reaches of the lake and the wetlands meet is where the lizardmen live. Because of the coming of the mysterious undead a few days ago, this quiet and peaceful place is about to be plunged into war. At this time, the lizardmen from the 5 major tribes have gathered and are ready to work together to resist the enemy. The greatest contributor among them could be said to be Zeryuzashasha of the Green Claw tribe, who integrated the brave warriors of the Vermilion Eye tribe and the Dragon Fang tribe, so he was allowed to attend the meeting with representatives of the other 5 tribes as one of the leaders of this battle. Under the protection of their ancestors, all the lizardmen felt an inspiring power, their morale was high, and with proper command, they actually had the upper hand against the undead legion. Cocytus had a vague feeling that if they continued like this, they would lose. There was a huge mirror and a table in the wooden house, and sitting on the chairs were various alien creatures, insects similar to mantises and ants. They are all servants directly under Cocytus, and their levels are around level 80. Any one of them can wipe out the lizardmen, even the woman in the maid outfit can do it. But Cocytus couldn't do that. Lord Ainz had ordered that he and his servants were not allowed to show up. The insect maid Entima was sent to supervise the battle. Cocytus could clearly see the situation on the battlefield through the telescope and knew that he could not wait any longer. The first time he used the name of Nazarick to go to war, it ended in failure. He couldn't let the Supreme Being lose face because of his negligence. Who should I contact at this time? Cocytus grabbed the message scroll in his hand, thought carefully, and unfolded it in the air. Master Sig, I have a favor to ask of you. What's wrong? Cocytus, are you in trouble? You actually contacted me on your own initiative. Sig was currently carrying out the task assigned by his client, which was to eliminate and control the number of a rapidly proliferating small magical beast. It was neither a difficult nor an easy task, but the reward was considerable. The issuer was a famous noble duke, so it would also be good for improving his reputation. It's like this, I'm currently fighting the lizardmen. Hearing Sig's voice in his mind, Cocytus felt relieved and he immediately explained the current situation in detail. Although his first thought was to ask Demiurge for advice, he felt a little jealous when he thought about how the other party could perfectly complete the task assigned by the Supreme Being. After all, they were in a competitive relationship. Lord Sig is gentle and kind to others, and is also very friendly to the Guardians. He is as wise as Lord Ainz, so he should be able to give him some useful advice. It's this matter. The President mentioned it to me. Sig stopped and fell into a state of thought. Upon seeing this, Nabe and Lupus Regina immediately protected him, one of them wielding a sword fiercely, and the other holding a huge holy staff, making it impossible for the monster to get close to him within a 5-meter range. Sig asked, "What do you want to do now? I would like you to give me some advice. This is the first time that Ansama has allowed me to fight on behalf of Nazarick. We must not lose this battle. Sir Sig, please help me. In fact, I can lend you one of my followers, but that really wouldn't be a good idea. Don't you understand the President's good intentions?" Sig sighed, his tone quite helpless. Cocytus had never doubted why Ainz made those rules. It seemed that he was blinded by the idea of winning for his master. "I am not aware of Lord Ainz's intentions." Cocytus' voice became noticeably weaker, like a child who had done something wrong. "If you were only going to attack the lizardmen, why didn't you send out a stronger force and not let you show up? The President is testing you to see if you can win with your own wisdom. So that's how it is." After being surprised, Cocytus fell into deep depression again. If she had consulted Lord Sig earlier, or perhaps thought of this earlier, she would definitely not have fallen into the current situation. "It's too late now. I'm very sorry. I screwed up and failed to live up to your expectations." Sig comforted, "It's okay. What did you say? Just wait patiently. If I want to punish you, I will stop you. After all, I forgot to remind you in advance." "Don't ever say that, Master Sig." Even though they were thousands of kilometers away, Sig could feel Cocytus's broken mood at the moment. It sounded very pitiful, and although it was very rude, he felt like laughing. After cutting off the message, Sig thanked the 2 people around him. In just a few minutes, the ground was littered with corpses of monsters. Their clothes were stained with blood and their hair was a little messy. They looked like they had just been through a fierce battle. Although it is not difficult to kill monsters of this level, there will always be omissions when there are too many of them. It is easy to be splashed with blood when getting close, which is inevitable. However, this appearance does not affect the beauty of the two people. Instead, it adds a bit of unique beauty. They are indeed real beauties. Before Sig had admired enough, the two of them, with the help of cleaning magic props, tidied their appearance and faced the Supreme One with their best appearance. This was the most basic common sense, but someone was still not satisfied. Lupus Regina shouldered her weapon with a smile on her face. Mr. Eli, what should we do next? Nabe raised her eyes and looked over, as if she was following his lead. Sig put on the mask, and just as the wind blew, his robe fluttered in the wind. The moment the picture froze, it felt like a scene from a movie, and it seemed that no one could resist this feeling. Let's go back and report back. The client had a typical imperial appearance, with pure golden hair, a slightly plump figure but without a big belly, and his every move and gesture was that of a superior. But when facing Sig, his tone was kind, his attitude was friendly, and there was even a hint of respect, completely giving Sig enough face. Sir Eli is indeed very powerful. He solved a big problem so quickly. I'm afraid that even the silver bird of the elite team can't do it. Faced with such praise, Sig neither admitted nor refuted it. Others might think that this was tacit agreement, but no one would question it. This is the privilege of masters, and it is not surprising at all because of their strength. Your Excellency the Duke, can we pay the final payment now? Of course, but since you are so powerful, have you ever thought about serving the Empire? His Majesty is very impressed by your strength. After talking for a long time, the Duke finally stated his purpose. The Blood Emperor. Sig murmured. His hard work in establishing his character paid off as he finally caught a big fish. Chapter 52. Blood Emperor. The Duke's smile remained unchanged when he heard Sig's whisper. That's right, sir. Although Blood Emperor is a recognized title, I still hope to be able to address you as Your Majesty. Please forgive me. Sig nodded, and became more interested in the Duke, who showed no emotion in front of him. This man might not be as simple as he seemed. Being a great noble, he was appreciated by the Blood Emperor. This in itself is a kind of ability. If he, who often issues tasks, represents the Blood Emperor's intentions, then it would be even more interesting. It would not be a good choice for him to come to me. But why would Your Majesty pay attention to me? Sig pretended not to understand. You are a 5th-level magic chanter. The entire Empire knows your name. Don't be so modest in front of me. Does the Duke know that I am a foreigner? Of course I know this, but Your Majesty is very wise and treats talents with special favor. Even foreigners can receive the same treatment as the citizens of the Empire. The Duke patiently said, Lord Flutter is also very concerned about you and hopes to meet you. What do you think of the previous proposal? After a long silence, Sig shook his head and said, I have no intention of joining any faction for now. The Duke caught a hint of pity in Sig's words, and thought to himself, these magic casters are really interested in people who can use higher level magic than themselves. In a way, they are really innocent. It's a pity that I can't see the expression behind the mask, so I can't accurately judge what Eli is thinking at the moment, but his guess is almost right. He changed the subject and smiled again. There's no rush to conclude this matter. This is my token. Take it with you when you meet Flutter-sama. After leaving a bag of money, the Duke left with his hands behind his back, smiling mysteriously. Your Excellency will definitely not be disappointed. Sig played with the token in his hand, a smile on his face. Yeah, I definitely won't be disappointed. Just when I was wondering how to meet Flutter in a reasonable way, a ready-made opportunity came to me. He has a ring on his finger that can adjust the power of magic. It is the same model as Ainz. Players who pay a little attention to strength will also equip it. Since there is no way to speed up the recovery of MP in the game, it can only be recovered naturally, so hiding MP can be very effective in confusing the enemy. As long as the ring is equipped, low-level detection magic can only see false magic power. Unless the player is specialized in detection and uses special artifacts, it is absolutely impossible to see through it. In order to make Ainz believe his words, he deliberately adjusted his magic power to around the 6th level, and his surprise at being seen through was also pretended. This also means that even the magic eyes that are born with supernatural powers cannot see through disguises. Flutter himself is a magic fanatic who is willing to give everything he has for magic. He is even jealous that his disciple has learned 4th level magic faster than him, so it is not difficult for him to subdue him. Flutter, who is in a high position of power, would be more useful than Lana. It doesn't matter if he is discovered to have betrayed him. With his influence, even if the Blood Emperor knew about it, he would not dare to turn against him. At most, he would just deal with it coldly. Sig already has an idea in his mind, but now is not a good time to act. Being too eager will easily arouse suspicion. Now he needs to wait quietly. He will not be idle during this period. Demiurge has already begun preparing a plan to attack the royal capital, and public opinion here is about to begin. Nabe, are there any missions within the kingdom? Ever since the worker team became famous for slaying dragons, many clients have come to us. Although we cannot accept all of them, we have the right to choose within a certain range. Nabe showed up with sharp eyes. There is one mission right now, which is to collect herbs. The location is quite close to where Nazarick is, so I took it. Then take it. I have to go back to Nazarick. I'll leave the contact to you. It just so happened that he was also going to attend the criticism meeting of Cocytus and take a look at the lizard man. Yes, sir. Nabe used the rabbit ear magic and a pair of cute rabbit ears grew on her head, which trembled slightly in order to hear the sounds around her. When making contact, you must confirm that the surrounding environment is safe to avoid information leakage before sending a message. Nabe's magic is all used in combat, and she doesn't have super strong 5 senses like Sig, so she is always cautious. This magic also has rabbit feet and rabbit tail. When these 3 skills are activated at the same time, the clothes will change, which is very popular. How should I put it? Sig was still a little curious, as he had never seen the effect of this magic. No, it should be said that he was extremely curious and gradually he couldn't hold back anymore. Nabe, can I discuss something with you? Sig raised his hand to take off the mask and put on a pair of well-made sliced glasses, which exuded a faint magical glow, and there seemed to be runes engraved on the temples. A pair of wise glasses that can see hidden things through the lenses, see through unknown magic, block mind control magic activated through vision, suppress strong light, and even restore eye fatigue and help concentrate. Because he was nearsighted in both lives, he bought it without hesitation, and since it was a capsule gift, he spent a lot of money on it. Why? Nabe stood there awkwardly, reaching out to grab the hem of her skirt. Although it wasn't a traditional bunny girl costume, it was much more revealing than what she usually wore, and her face was as red as if it was cooked. Is that all right, Master Sig? Wait a moment. Sig pushed up his glasses and the lenses seemed to be sparkling. Sig-san, how can I say this to you? A third person's voice came from the room. At some point, a skeleton with the aura of a ruler appeared in the room, looking at Sig with a helpless look. I didn't, you misunderstood. In a hurry, Sig denied it 3 times in a row. After he came to his senses, he felt that he couldn't explain it clearly, so he could only let Nabe leave. Ainz patted his shoulder and said in a voice that only the 2 of them could hear, I understand. As a friend, I will keep it a secret, but don't go too far. It was actually normal to travel to another world and start a harem. He had read a lot of such literary works, and Sig was not the kind of person who would harm his companions' children. But the cause was that he modified the settings, so I can only support him. I just hope Sig doesn't go too far, and he will turn a blind eye. Really, I'm just curious about magic. Sig was still trying to argue. He never thought of doing anything weird. He was just taking a look. If he didn't believe it, he could go ask Albedo. If you misunderstand him again, once or twice, he will really become the kind of person you imagined. Ainz, who was very emotionally intelligent, no longer dwelled on this topic. Aren't you curious about what I'm doing here? Sig curled his lips. He just asked me to criticize Cocytus together. He even communicated with me through messages because of the defeat. Then there's nothing else to do. Remember to dress formally. Sig said as he walked into the portal, by the way, I would like to borrow your son, Pandora's actor. Ah, are you sure? Non-existent sweat flowed down Ainz's face. That was his dark history. I can also post pictures, hehe. Chapter 53. In the throne room, all the great guardians including Demiurge were present. Albedo was not present because she was accompanying the Supreme Being instead of Sebastian, who was out on his own. The Dark Elf siblings and Shaltir stood respectfully below, and Cocytus was naturally in the queue as well. They seemed to have been trained, with the guardians lined up in a row in the front and the servants in 2 rows. We are honored to welcome the Supreme Ruler of Nazarick, Lord Ainz Oolgaun, the Supreme Being Sigris Hriswerg, and the Chief Guardian, Lady Albedo. Following the heavy sound of the door opening, 3 footsteps sounded one after another. The guardians had their own guesses. The crisp sound of his cane touching the ground was that of Lord Ainz, the sound of his armor touching the ground was that of Lord Sig, and the sound of his high heels stepping on the ground was that of Albedo. Look up! With the highest respect, everyone slowly raised their heads. Ainz, holding a scepter and emitting a powerful aura behind him, sat on the throne. The person sitting next to him was naturally Sig. He had put on the armor that radiated the light of the starry sky for the first time in a long time, and his whole body exuded an extremely powerful aura. As for why he was sitting, don't get me wrong, he was certainly not sitting on the throne with Ainz. It seemed that it was Cocytus who proposed it. He believed that the Supreme Being could not stand like slaves like them. Even if Lord Sig didn't care, they couldn't pretend not to see it. This was agreed by all the guardians. Albedo reported this to Ainz, who immediately agreed with her. Soon, a luxurious enough chair was added to the throne room. It was made of some kind of magical beast skin with a soft outer shell, and it exuded the scent of incense. In terms of comfort alone, it was much more comfortable than the throne. Sig actually didn't care at all. With his physical strength, he wouldn't feel tired even if he stood for several days in a row. There was no difference between sitting and standing. If Ainz wanted him to sit with him, that was fine. He had no objection. He didn't need to say much during the meeting. He only needed to watch Ainz perform. This feeling was quite comfortable, except for a certain look that seemed like he was looking at prey. However, he planned to pretend he didn't see it. As the questioning progressed, the highlight of the day soon arrived. Cocytus, Master Ainz has something to tell you. Albedo stood under the throne, her eyes seeming to be filled with hidden anger, and all the guardians' gazes were focused on Cocytus. The atmosphere suddenly became solemn. When his name was called, Cocytus actually breathed a sigh of relief. The feeling of being tortured to death was really uncomfortable, and it was finally his turn. Ainz said coldly, Cocytus, have you found the reason for your failure? Yes, I was too careless and underestimated the power of the lizardman. Defeat is already a fact. Please grant me death. It's too early to talk about punishment now, Cocytus. Sig, who had been silent, spoke up. You are all precious subordinates. The President and I love you. After making a mistake, the best response is to think about making amends. If anyone dares to think about committing suicide again, I will never forgive him. The cold and stern voice filled the hall, and the guardians and servants were about to shed tears. Cocytus' body trembled slightly. Because he was a samurai, he had special respect for excellent warriors. Lord Sig's practice of keeping his word and his touching remarks made him feel ashamed. Please give the order, Master Ainz. I originally planned to annihilate the lizardmen. It seems that they have some value. Cocytus even praised them highly. I am considering whether to keep them. After he finished speaking, Ainz kept staring at Cocytus, as if observing his reaction. Sig had already told him in advance that Cocytus wanted to spare the lizard man's life, and he was confirming this now. They are just low-level creatures. They are most suitable to be used as corpses to summon death knights. I can't think of any other uses for lizardmen. Albedo's gentle voice said the cruelest words. The people present seemed to have no objection to this statement. After all, this was the original plan. Please grant me a request, Ainz-sama. It was Cocytus who spoke. Demiurge had a complicated expression and wanted to speak but didn't. Cocytus, as a loser you have no right to make demands. You should understand that, right? Albedo displayed an aura befitting a chief guardian. Cocytus knelt there tremblingly, like a child who had done something wrong. Why not listen to what Cocytus has to say? Maybe he will have his own opinion. Sig spoke at the right time. He and Ainz agreed that they wanted to see the guardians grow, and that their enthusiasm should not be suppressed too much. He still felt a little guilty about letting Albedo be the bad guy. Albedo had returned to her dignified appearance, with a barely perceptible smile on her face. As you command, I understand. Ainz also nodded. I allow Cocytus to speak. In the end, Cocytus proposed to spare the lives of the lizardmen instead of killing them all, on the grounds that the lizardmen were excellent warriors. Ainz was somewhat pleased with this. The compassion that Cocytus possessed was extremely rare. Although the correct idea in Nazarick was not to regard creatures outside of Nazarick as lives, this was not entirely correct, and he would not be dissatisfied with unnecessary opinions. With Demiurge's instigation, it was decided to conduct an experiment on the ruler of the lizardmen, with Cocytus in full charge. This matter came to an end, and the next day they attacked the lizardmen again to show them the power of Nazarick. Sig stood up. There was no obvious friction sound between the armor. He wanted to leave quietly, but he didn't expect that this action would still attract attention. Albedo came to his side and fluttered her black wings. Lord Sig needs to go back and rest. Please let me accompany you. Shaltir came to the other side and chuckled, who would rest so early? I have learned a new game. Sir Sig, do you want to join us? Don't lead Lord Sig astray. Humph, I didn't expect you to be as boring on the inside as you appear on the outside. BCH. At this time, Ainz was about to leave, and Yuri followed him. It seemed that this had been planned for a long time. Sig felt a lot of pressure. Suddenly he thought of something and stopped Ainz, who was about to run away. President, there is still something to do. Have you forgotten that you don't have any free time tomorrow? Ainz was stunned for a moment. What was so urgent? Sig smiled and said, it's about Pandora. The timing is perfect. Let's go together. Pandora. It's an NPC created by Ainz-sama. Ainz. You repay kindness with enmity. I didn't expect you to be this kind of person, Sig-san. Chapter 54. President, isn't it possible? Sig's voice was not aggressive, but rather had a tone of request. Imagining the expression under the helmet, Ainz felt that he could not refuse. Forget it, it's just a dark history. Everyone makes mistakes, and the Guardians will understand. Ainz decided to stop trying to escape. Yes, sure. Time is running out. Let's go to the treasure hall now. Sig immediately changed his outer attire to a more comfortable black suit. Albedo and Shaltir should leave first, Yuri too. The safety factor of the treasure hall is very high, no special guards are needed. Ah! Is this really necessary? Ainz was very surprised. Albedo, who was smiling, pursed her lips and twisted her long black hair with her fingers, looking aggrieved. Master Sig, why do you let me accompany you? This is my responsibility as the chief guardian. Did he dislike her? A crystal light suddenly flashed in Albedo's eyes, and a tear burst out. Shaltir on the side showed her little fangs in surprise, and seemed to have not yet reacted to what was happening, but she also learned to make a pitiful expression. Ah, this! Sig took a half step back unconsciously, cold sweat breaking out on his face. Ainz's dignified voice sounded, don't let your imagination run wild. Sig-san and I haven't had a private chat together for a long time. That's why I asked you to leave. There is no other reason. So this is an order from Lord Ainz. I obey your command. Albedo returned to her dignified and gentle appearance, bowed slightly, and performed a standard salute. Did she say what was in her heart? Albedo really doesn't know how to hide things. Ainz felt helpless. But Sig-san is really something. I didn't expect him to consider it so comprehensively. He would rather not be with the beautiful woman than save his face. It turned out that he was overthinking. I'm really sorry that such a misunderstanding occurred. After everyone left, Sig let out a long sigh. His entire appearance seemed to have faded, and his originally spiky hair had become limp. Anyway, he finally had some peace and quiet, and he felt like his body was almost exhausted. He really couldn't handle two people at the same time. Ah, Sig-san, you should know the entry code to the treasure hall, otherwise we can only ask Ziza for help. Ainz slapped his head, feeling very annoyed. If this happened, all his previous efforts would be in vain. He even triggered a forced calm. Sig smiled, I'm very familiar with the treasure hall. In fact, I can use most of the weapons there. By the way, you have a job that enhances the use of weapons, and a special skill for the arsenal. The skill arsenal that works with the weapon master can store the weapons to be used in it for preparation for battle. It is a space-based skill similar to a pocket. Thanks to this skill, Sig can quickly change to the right weapon in battle and defeat the enemy unexpectedly, which is very troublesome. Takamai also complained that this is simply cheating. However, there should be no one in this world who can make him fight with all his strength. The only threatening dragon clan can use Gun Eiger. In order to reduce losses, those commonly used weapons are placed in the treasure hall. Ainz asked curiously, then can Sig-san also use the weapons everyone left behind? Sig nodded. It can actually be used, but it probably won't work as well as it should. Many equipments need to be matched with professions. However, Artifacts are not very common in the game. Even level 100 players usually only own one. Equipping the whole body with artifacts is quite intimidating. You are really amazing. Ainz said sincerely, I am really happy to see Cocytus's growth, but I am also a little worried about whether he is qualified to be a ruler. I really want to find someone to teach me about monarchy. The Terror Lord knows a lot about imperial studies and speaks very politely. You can ask him for advice. Oh, Lord Horror, forget it. Although Ainz was not afraid of cockroaches, the number of insects like that was still maddening, and he really couldn't accept it. Sig advised considerately, remember the glasses I'm wearing? They can block vision, and all you'll see is a mosaic. You sound like you've been there before. To be honest, as the ruler of Nazarick, there are some places that Ainz has never set foot in, including the black coffin of the Lord of Terror. Sig's face turned grey, as if he remembered something bad, but he still had a smile on his face. Ah, I have been there. Lucifer gave me a surprise. Lucifer always fails to understand the boundaries of relationships and makes inappropriate jokes, so he deserves the result. Sig shows mercy to him for the sake of his former companion and only lets him complete 72 demon pillars before letting him go. Ainz changed the subject and said, Lucifer-san has indeed gone too far. I remember he specifically said that he would leave the artifact to you. Do you want to take it out this time? I almost forgot about it. It seems like it might come in handy this time. Sig touched his chin and thought, since we are going to act, let's make it a big deal. Passing through the room filled with the poisonous blood of Hormungandr, Ainz arrived at the door. He suddenly became interested. I think I remember the password to open the door. Let me try it. Seeing that he was eager to try, Sig just didn't want to say something so immature in front of others, so he agreed to watch from the side. Most of the mechanisms were set up by Kuiulu, and he really couldn't persuade the other party to change the password. Ainz Oolgown is full of glory. The pitch-black door responded, and words began to appear on it. In this way, you will take all the glory of the world, and all darkness will stay away from you. Ainz looked at Sig, and after getting the correct answer, he clenched his fist happily. Sig seriously suspected that he had influenced Bone King. Why did he feel different from his impression? The butterfly's wings are fluttering quietly. Welcome, my creator, Master Momonga. Pandora pressed her heels together, saluted, turned around and did the same thing in an exaggerated tone, and our distinguished guest, Master Sigli. Pandora, long time no see. Sig nodded lightly in response to his question, and seemed no different from usual. This made Ainz even more uneasy, and he screamed in his heart, don't let anything unexpected happen. Pandora's actor, a double phantom, has a bald head like an egg, with no facial features at all, only 3 holes that can be called eyes and a mouth. Military uniforms can be considered handsome, but that can't be considered a complete advantage. What are you two doing here? Why are you here alone without any followers? It's Sig-san who wants to talk to you. I've changed my name to Ainz Oolgown now, so you don't have to call me Sig Reese, just Sig. Pandora showed an exaggerated expression, stood at attention and began to salute again. Yes, Master Ainz, Master Sig. This egg. Pandora, Ainz sincerely hoped that he would stop saluting. Chapter 55. So, Master Sig, what do you want me to do this time? Could it be that those tools are finally useful? I've been cleaning them carefully every day. Pandora's body movements were exaggerated, and she seemed to be about to start singing loudly. Every move she made was pretentious, and the distance was almost to the point of kissing. Solame. Ainz once again triggered forced calmness. Even though Sig fell down laughing, he thought it was normal because this was truly a living black history. He quickly pulled Pandora away and whispered, as your creator, please don't embarrass yourself. This is all I ask. If my god so wishes. Is this German? Stop talking like that. Pandora, frightened, answered yes obediently, without using an exaggerated tone for the first time. Sorry to interrupt, please continue. Ainz coughed lightly and winked at Pandora several times. It won't be a difficult task for you. I hope you can dress up as me and fight with Eli, who I play. I will be equipped with Lucifer's artifact by then, so you have to take it seriously. Sig smiled with narrowed eyes and spoke seriously yet relaxed. The atmosphere was like that of good friends who had not seen each other for many years. Ah, so it's such an important matter. I will do my best and will never let you down. Pandora's boots made a crisp clinking sound, and then she saluted, exuding my most handsome feeling. Sig's expression was surprisingly relieved. Ainz had a puzzled look on his face. Any of his companions would burst out laughing in this situation. He was not targeting anyone in particular, but Pandora was designed to be like this by him. But this is also a good thing. Sig-san always considers his feelings, which is really touching. Then let's go to the mausoleum to get the items, Sig-san. Ainz had a non-existent smile on his face. Well, let's go. Sig took off the ring and handed it to Pandora. Because the mausoleum contains the rarest items in Nazarick, and considering that the enemy will invade wearing the ring, it is set that anyone wearing the ring of Ainz gown will be attacked, so taking it off in advance is obviously the best choice. Pandora held up the ring and said, "This is the ring of Ainz gown. It is a precious item of Nazarick." Ainz suddenly said, "Pandora's actor, wait for us here. I will send you a message when I come out. You should know that you cannot leave here without the ring." Pandora nodded with a hint of regret and bowed again. "Farewell, Master Ainz, Master Sig." Walking in the dim room, Sig said slowly, "President, please don't be so harsh on Pandora. Although your own child won't feel resentment because of this, it's not a good thing in the long run." Ainz had wanted to ask this since the beginning, and he couldn't hold it back anymore when they were alone. "Don't you want to smile when you see Pandora? You seem to be very familiar with him." "To be precise, I am very familiar with the treasure hall. Although Pandora did not take the initiative to talk to him before, because I often ran into him, I have a deep impression of him, and." Sig finally revealed a happy smile. He had been holding it in for too long and almost had internal injuries. He held his stomach with his hands while laughing. "Pfft! I can't laugh at you in front of him. Sig-san, you are such a bad person. I thought you were." "Oh? What for?" Sig's expression changed in an instant, and he looked seriously at the expressionless skull face, as if trying to see his true thoughts. "Nothing." Ainz naturally refused to say it. The two of them happened to walk to the place where the armed statues were placed, so he immediately changed the subject. "This is an immortal incarnation made to simulate your appearance. It is indeed a little bit different. I wonder if you can recognize it. You can guess it just by looking at the props. Don't ask such simple questions." Sig took a quick glance and found that most of them were familiar faces. Although they didn't look very similar, he did capture their spirit. "Is mine in that position?" He pointed to an empty seat in the corner, and Ainz nodded, saying with interest, "The one next to it is mine, and that one is Kurahiro-sang's." As I looked over there, I saw that there were indeed only 4 empty seats. Sig walked to the statue of Lucifer, stretched out his hand and used the equipment stripping skill, and a set of divine equipment appeared in his hand. One of the pieces was a pure white robe with a golden cross pattern printed on it, and the other was a matching black ribbon with a gold pattern, which would naturally hang on the equipment. His choice to equip this artifact was not a sudden whim. The fact that a 5th-level magic caster could not perform flying magic was a huge flaw, and he had to find a way to make up for it. This set of equipment has a very inconspicuous skill, which can give the user the ability to float freely in the air, and can also enhance magical abilities to a certain extent. It also has the attributes of avoiding critical hits and enhancing resistance to instant death. The basic attributes are also quite good. Sig was not worried that Pandora would be too harsh. What he was worried about was that an outsider would come to disrupt the situation. Of course, he was talking about the Platinum Dragon King. We don't know the opponent's abilities yet, but if he has the ability to completely enclose a space, he probably won't be able to change his outfit, and he may not be able to win even if he uses his dragon form. What he had to ensure was that the Platinum Dragon King was captured after it appeared, and he must not let it go. If it did not appear, he could just act normally. It is better to be safe than sorry, and only with caution can one get a new dragon rider. He must not underestimate his opponent. "Let's go, President. We can't keep Pandora waiting too long." Ainz did not refute, but sighed helplessly, "I didn't expect to see my comrade's equipment being used again. This may be the best ending." After leaving, the space where the statue was placed returned to its original tranquility. The dim and quiet environment was like a resting place for the soul. Maybe I should just treat my companion as dead. Hey Luo went offline a little early, so maybe he really didn't travel through time. Having one person accompany me is enough, and I shouldn't be so greedy. Sig turned and asked, "What's wrong?" Ainz shook his head slowly. Nothing. Let's go. This place doesn't give me a good feeling. I suddenly feel a little uncomfortable. Sig looked thoughtful, and suddenly a devilish smile appeared on his lips. Your son is guarding here all day long. Don't you let him go out for a walk? I think we can let him share some of the responsibilities. The Guardians should also know about Pandora's existence. Ainz's eyes flashed red, and he was forced to calm down again after thinking of something. I had originally planned to do the same. There are some things that it is useless to escape from, and Pandora will prove with facts that he is worth it. Lucifer probably looks like this. I saw the picture from a big guy. But I didn't intentionally not update it. It's just that I have a stomachache all the time. Please believe me. Chapter 56. The Lizardman tribe held a grand banquet. A dark green male lizardman was enjoying a tender moment with a beautiful white lizardman, their tails unconsciously intertwined. The heroes Ryuzu and Korsh, who has the most priest talent, became friends because of this battle, and their relationship quickly warmed up after the war. I believe that if this continues, they will soon have baby lizards. It's a pity that things will never go as planned, and they, the lizardmen, will face the worst situation in history. Dark clouds covered the sky above the village, and a sharp, biting cold wind began to blow in the air. The undead equipped with golden magic props formed a column, and a powerful pressure was overwhelming. It was simply a mythical army. How is that possible? It's absolutely impossible to win. Such exclamations came one after another, and then a man wearing shiny black armor walked out from among the skeletons. There was not a single piece of skin exposed on his body, and judging from his figure, he should be a human. But if it was just a human, would it emit such a frightening aura? Many lizardmen have begun to tremble, and even Ryuzu himself feels the same way. Brother, what do you think that is? Patriarch Syasalo walked up to him. Ryuzu suppressed his fear and shook his head slowly. I don't know. I've never seen anything like that. It shouldn't be a human being. It's like a natural enemy. Courxiu closed her red eyes to hide the fear in her heart, but her slightly trembling hands betrayed her true thoughts at the moment. As they spoke, Sig's magic was ready, and as his MP was drawn away, a huge magic circle appeared a few meters in the sky. Then a scaly claw stretched out from it, and the magic was obviously not complete yet. After another claw appeared, the magic circle shattered, accompanied by a crisp sound, and a crack seemed to appear in the sky. White mist began to fill the surroundings, crackling sounds became louder and louder, and the moisture in the air turned into ice crystals and fell from the sky, just like rain. What on earth is this? Is he a magic caster? Cocytus was completely unable to comprehend what was happening in front of her. He was obviously a warrior, but he used such incomprehensible magic. She simply couldn't figure out what was going on. Finally, a giant frost dragon descended completely, with ice-blue scales, beautiful figure, and majestic posture. Being stared at by those crystal-clear pupils, it seemed as if its soul was about to be sucked away. Faced with such a terrifying existence, the lizardmen were completely unable to move, and they didn't even have the thought of escaping. Sig looked up at the ice dragon and said in a low voice that only he could hear, "Let's get started." Since the opening mission was given to him, he should do it well. After all, it represents the reputation of Nazarick. The ice dragon nodded respectfully, circled and flew to a high point, with an incandescent light emitting from its throat. After only a few seconds of accumulating strength, a white mist spewed out, and the surface of the lake froze almost instantly. Directly in the center of the lake facing the breathing, a small mountain made entirely of ice appeared, eventually forming a platform. The lizardmen were also affected. Even though they evacuated from the lake quickly, many of them still had frostbitten feet and felt constant excruciating pain. Ice attribute defense. The priests began to help heal the injured, and the situation was slightly stabilized, but Ryuzu knew clearly that they were finished, and the lizardmen were finished too. Someone who can command the strongest race, the dragon, is definitely not something they can deal with. Just one dragon can destroy the lizardmen several times. This is what is called the Supreme Being. He is simply a monster among monsters. Perhaps this is the legendary dragon rider. I heard that there are people in the council country who fight on dragons, they are called dragon riders. However, the dragon in front of him is obviously beyond the scope of understanding. Even the legendary dragon emperor would have some fighting power. They are not even on the same level. After completing the task, the ice dragon stopped on the platform, lowered its head slightly behind it, and the skeletons began to stack up layer by layer, looking like cockroaches from above. But no one can laugh now, as a road to the king has been built. Walking in front is a man dressed in a luxurious black robe, similar to the Archmage of the Dead. His face is also that of a skull, and he exudes an evil aura. This is the ruler of death. How is this possible? Could it be that he is the Supreme Being? Salius wailed. So are there really many people who can freeze the lake? Were the people just now just his subordinates? Soon, the Dragon Knight appeared in the field of vision. He walked behind the ruler of death, only half a body length behind him. The two men were almost walking side by side. For some reason, Zeryuzua felt relieved. Then, a pure white demon slowly walked out, and the dark elf twins, a silver-haired girl, and a human male with a tail appeared one by one. As the scepter touched the ground, two thrones appeared on the platform, one slightly larger and one slightly smaller. Ainz and Sig sat down one after the other. Ainz murmured, "Next, we should notify them to come for questioning." Sig sat down and changed into a comfortable position, crossing his hands on his chest, without making any comment. Originally, he had not planned to participate in this event, but everyone disagreed. He probably understood that Ainz wanted to have someone to look after him, so in order not to make things difficult for the Guardians, he simply agreed. It was Albedo's suggestion that he start the conversation, and she had good reasons for it. Sig is a natural deterrent to lizardmen, and has a similar effect on all reptiles, just like a natural enemy. Appearing right at the beginning can effectively suppress the arrogance of the lizardmen, make them understand the difference in combat power, and thus dispel the idea of resistance, killing two birds with one stone. In fact, seeing the situation in Nazarick, no one would want to resist. Not running away would be a great effort. Looking at Albedo's loving eyes, Sig didn't have the heart to go against her after all. He hadn't allocated time for her this time. Of course, this was also due to the strong requests of many guardians, including Shaltir, Mare, and Aura. Cocytus also hoped that he could take the lead. Ainz was a good man, so he naturally had no objection. He just needed to make it gorgeous and intimidating, without spending too much thought on it. It was gorgeous and intimidating. Sig almost couldn't help but punch Ainz. How could this be called having no requirements? After Ainz finished talking with the lizardman, Sig decided to leave and not watch the rest of the battle. After all, it was a bully fight and he couldn't afford to lose. He had other things to do. "Are you ready?" Message sent. "Yes, Lord Sig." The man in silver blue armor made the same voice as Sig. Chapter 57. Pandora's disguise is impeccable. Not only is there no difference in her voice, but even her face under the armor is the same. This is the ability of the double phantom race. In front of the portal, Albedo showed a puzzled look. It is not necessary for Lord Sig to appear in person to deceive those inferior creatures. I believe that the servants can complete the task well. In addition to Pandora, Nazarick also has many automatically generated low-level double phantoms. Although they can only change into one appearance, it is enough. I haven't really fought in a long time since I came to this world. My hands and feet are almost rusted. I think I should move around a little. What do you think, Albedo? Facing Sig's smiling explanation, Albedo did not raise any more objections and replaced her voice with a gentle one, "I have the same idea. Don't let Sig down." Pandora nodded and restrained her movements. "Miss Albedo, you are worrying too much. I will do my best." When Albedo heard her address her as Miss, she showed a very dissatisfied expression on her face, but she didn't say anything, because the person in front of her looked exactly like Lord Sig. "Albedo, please tell Cocytus that I'm sorry that I can't witness his triumphant return." Sig equipped himself with the divine outfit, and the white robe immediately changed to a size that matched his body. The golden patterns emitted a sacred light, and the mask added a bit of mystery. Lucifer's race is an angelic construct, his main occupation is a Gram Master, and he also masters some holy magic, so his equipment will have enhancements in this aspect. In short, it is just right for him now. Albedo pouted slightly, and her angry look was somewhat adorable. Cocytus has already failed once. Giving him a chance is still a great mercy from the Supreme Being. Please don't say that. Albedo, you are the only one who knows that I left. Do you know why? Albedo's cheeks flushed. Does Lord Sig want to play the role of a wife bidding farewell to her husband? I should dress up properly. You never let me relax. Sig was a little embarrassed. He didn't think so at all. He coughed lightly and said, "No, that's because Albedo, you are the most trustworthy person, so I asked you to convey the message on my behalf. The person you trust the most. Albedo was not dissatisfied with the answer. She put her hands on her chest, twisted her body as if she was cheering, and the wings on her waist also fluttered excitedly. Lord Sig, it's time for us to set off. Pandora interrupted Albedo at an inopportune moment, and naturally received a horrified look from him. He turned his face away in fear, obviously not understanding what was going on. It's really getting late. Albedo, go and do your work. I'll take you out next time. Before Sig could finish his words, Albedo almost shouted the word "that's great." Without looking back, he quickly walked into the portal and left. In short, he should not destroy the good image of Albedo in his heart. Although he already knew her nature, humans are always visual animals. In fact, he would not feel disgusted with Albedo because of her inconsistency. He himself was very hypocritical. Unlike Ainz, who would do anything for his companions, he did things completely out of his heart, but just covered the surface with a layer of sugar coating, reasonable reasons. I have even less prejudice against Shaltir. Apart from liking some pornographic things, she is just like a child. So Sig just can't face two people at the same time, and he has never shown any disgust. His behavior is too straightforward. This should be the explanation. It seems that someone has complained about him in this way. Lord Sig, can we choose this venue? Pandora's words interrupted his thoughts. After passing through the portal, he stepped on the wet leaves. This is a forest not far from the capital, with lush vegetation. There are many magical beasts hidden in it, but their levels are very low, probably not as good as Hamsuk, and obviously cannot pose a threat. The lack of witnesses is a problem, but it seems that we don't need to worry too much. You think so too, Pandora? That's right, let's do some PvP, Lord Sig. Pandora reached out and took out a long sword wrapped in lightning from the space, and pointed it at Sig Takemi Kaz Hakiki. You've chosen a good weapon. Sig actually didn't expect Pandora to take out this weapon, but this also fully demonstrated that he already understood the power of the human form. That's right, it's the huge number of equipment, which is something that cannot be achieved in half-human and dragon man forms. However, the safest way is to summon followers as vanguards, but the object of the control spell is unique. Even if Pandora can use related skills, she still cannot summon a dragon. Thank you very much, Sig-sama, for giving me the opportunity to use Master Taketo Tekmire's weapon. I will definitely give it my all, as if it is a battle destined to happen. Even though she tried to restrain herself, Pandora still exuded a familiar aura, and Sig felt mixed emotions when he saw himself like this. How should I put it? This should be considered a shame. However, Pandora also has his merits. He takes the tasks assigned to him seriously. Even when fighting against the Supreme Being, he has no intention of letting up and he never dares to attack. I still have to praise him, if he didn't go too far. You know, Sig is wearing French clothes now. Master Sig, I'm going to attack. After activating the armor's own acceleration buff, Pandora came behind Sig almost instantly and slashed with a sharp blow accompanied by lightning. It can easily cut through legendary armor and weapons. Even a divine weapon may not be able to block it intact, not to mention that this is not an armor-type defensive equipment. Sig used his super-fast perception and flying ability to dodge the attack. However, Pandora's reaction was equally fast. There was no obvious difference in the physical fitness of the two. He changed the direction of attack and stabbed directly through the air with the tip of the knife. Freezing Cold and Ice attribute special skill, a degraded version of Frost Aura, which is very effective in restricting movement. Sig stepped on the ground with his toes, and white cold air spread instantly. Pandora was successfully blocked, her feet were restricted in place, and her movements were much slower. The fan-shaped area in front is directly frozen. As long as you stand in it, you will suffer continuous cold air damage, which can barely be regarded as attack magic. It's useless. Pandora shouted, crushed the ice crystals, and rushed forward again. Sig's mouth twitched, he almost forgot that he himself had complete resistance to cold air, and Pandora also had it. But just now he was hurt by the penetrating attack of Take Me Away Hachi and was paralyzed, with his entire shoulder paralyzed. He is only now recovering due to his own strong resistance. Sig couldn't help but feel annoyed. What a crappy equipment it was. It couldn't even prevent debuffs. The attributes of the human form can only be improved by equipment. There is no other way if the defensive equipment is not good enough, It is better to lower the bloodline a little bit and use healing magic directly. At present, it is still necessary to use defensive skills to reduce skill damage. Sig's body flashed with golden light, and he activated Divine Protection. Pandora attacks swiftly, and the next episode is coming soon. Star-shattering triple attack. A transparent light shield appeared in front of Sig. The artifact has its own special skill, which is the mage's life-saving skill. Pandora was knocked flying, and a bright light flashed from the armor on her feet, and it seemed that even the defense was not broken. When Sig thought that Pandora could also use healing magic, his expression became extremely complicated. Master Sig, I'm going to do it again. Sig suddenly thought of the mages who were killed in the game over the years. Perhaps they looked at him in the same way. This beast. Chapter 58. In order to protect the safety of the royal capital, checkpoints will be set up around the forest to prevent monster riots. The soldier on guard today was a farmer a few months ago. Unable to repay the debts to the nobles, he had no choice but to join the army. After a few days of hasty training, he was assigned a task and his salary was pitifully low. But he felt that this was also good. He did not want to fight with the well-trained imperial knights, but as the day of war was approaching, he, who had no power, would definitely be used as a stepping stone for those nobles to achieve their achievements. In order to justify their inheritance of the title, the elite heirs of the nobility, that is, the eldest sons of the family, would participate in wars to gild themselves. In this sense, the nobles were looking forward to the coming of war. After all, the ones who died were civilians, and both the empire and the kingdom regarded war as an annual routine. I really don't know when these days will end, the soldier sighed. Boom! A violent explosion was heard from deep in the forest, followed by a rustling sound. The weather was originally sunny, but suddenly a strong wind blew up, and it looked quite bad. Is it a monster riot? The soldier stood there blankly, not knowing if he was dazzled, when suddenly a shadow flew past him. After seeing it clearly, he cried out in surprise. Are you, okay? What happened? The man in the white robe seemed to be a clergyman. Soldiers had no ability to judge other people's skills, so they had such thoughts when they saw the cross on his chest. I heard that it seemed to be called a holy mark. The mysterious man stood up with the help of the staff in his hand and asked in a hoarse voice, Are you a soldier of the kingdom? Stay away from here. That guy can't understand human language at all. What? At this time, in the dust produced by the explosion, a suit of silver full-body armor appeared, holding in his hand an exaggerated long sword wrapped in lightning. However, the material of the armor should not be silver. The luster and texture are probably some rare metal. As for what it was specifically, it was not something a mere soldier could know. Even the armor of the kingdom's warrior captain did not have such a luster. It must be precious equipment that he could not even imagine. My name is Eli. You can verify the authenticity of my name with Ainz, the leader of the Adventurers Guild in Yelantire. I will attract that guy's attention later. You should leave quickly. The soldier almost cried when he heard the steady voice under the mask. Of course he wanted to leave, but his legs had been so weak from fear that he hadn't recovered yet. But he had heard the name Eli before, as if he was called a savior or something. Lord Eli, of course I believe you. He pointed at the unidentified man tremblingly, but who is he? Sig was very satisfied with his cooperative attitude and continued, his name is very long, I can't remember it clearly, but some people call him the Silver Knight, and I don't know anything more. Silver Knight? Isn't that the 13 heroes? The armor that had been standing still moved a little, and suddenly a young man's voice came out, I am Sigris Hrasvorg. It is the minimum respect to know the opponent's name, and you should not call me by a code name. Then Lord Hrasvorg, why did you suddenly launch an attack? Because I heard from people who were trying to get information from me that the culprit was Eli. This can't be false. Pandora accused righteously. Faced with such momentum, most people would not be able to confront it even if they were right, but Sig's voice was still firm. I can't tell whether you are a dangerous person or not, so I specifically informed President Ainz and asked him to be more careful. I was clearly trying to save people, but I was called a terrorist. No one would be happy, and I didn't want my whereabouts to be exposed. If I was misunderstood, I would apologize, but it didn't come to that. Seeing two upright people quarreling, the soldier was a little dumbfounded. Maybe it was just a misunderstanding? But now he didn't dare to say it out loud. There's no point in talking anymore, let's just get on with it. Okay, keep going. Sig grinned. Since Pandora still wanted to continue, he couldn't refuse for the sake of the show's effect. However, he would have to be serious about it later. The two had just assumed fighting stances when several more soldiers who had heard the noise came over. Their expressions were the same as the soldier at the beginning, all of them confused, and then frightened. Sig flew into the air with a whoosh, his white robe rustling in the wind, and the black ribbon floated around him as if it had no gravity. Pandora understood what he meant, put on a wing-shaped necklace around her neck, and flew into the sky by activating the flying props. When the battlefield moved to the air, the space for maneuver was obviously larger. Both of them relied on props to fly, and the difference in speed was obviously still not that big. Sig ignored the soldiers and took out a scroll. After unfolding it, it turned into points of light and dissipated. The 6th tier magic Great Healing can quickly restore a large amount of HP. It is less effective than complete recovery, but it is more convenient and can be activated directly through the scroll. Pandora also possesses the fighting qualities of a warrior. When the magic caster casts magic, it is the best opportunity to attack, so he is not going to give up. There was almost no need to activate active skills. With the help of permanent skills, he simply flashed over and made another simple slash. Sig, who had no decent defensive skills and equipment, was obviously unable to completely avoid the attack, and inevitably suffered penetrating damage, falling into the previous vicious circle again. But by increasing his skill and weapon proficiency, he finally mastered the essence of this set of divine weapons. Instead of retreating, he advanced and used his tin staff to block Take Miyakagaya no Hakashiki, and the mask and armor almost collided with each other. Then the eyes lit up, and the dragon's demonic eyes disruption skill was activated. Taking advantage of Pandora's distraction, he raised his hand and grabbed Pandora's neck, the part not covered by the armor, and his palm glowed. Control spell. Change. By the time Pandora came to his senses again, a minute had passed. According to the PvP rules, he could be considered the loser. Sure enough, Master Sig won. The timing of the last skill was really. Sig sat elegantly on the stone and ruthlessly stopped Pandora. It's also luck. You are very good. If he hadn't discovered the artifact's power to enhance mind control skills and his ability to control his own weaknesses, he really wouldn't have been able to defeat Pandora. In fact, Sig's resistance to mental magic is relatively low, but he usually fights alongside his dragon followers. The dominated dragon will no longer be controlled by mental magic. Even if he is hit by magic, he can still maintain his sanity through the connection with the dragon. His profession is similar to that of a magic warrior, but not every form has annihilation magic, so it is absolutely impossible to do it without suitable equipment. Pandora is a positive example. Hearing the noise in the distance, it seemed that the mission had been completed. Sig turned around and opened a portal, saying indifferently, "I'll leave it to you from now on." "I'm leaving now." "Yes, Master Sig. I will definitely complete the task well." Chapter 59. A fight between a worker traveler and an unidentified warrior due to a misunderstanding was not a big deal, and it was even less likely to reach the king's ears, but this time the matter was obviously not that simple. Warrior Captain Gazef happened to be patrolling nearby. After hearing the soldier's report, he hurried to the scene and saw a familiar figure in a large pit deep in the forest. He bowed in respect and said, "Lord Hrasvorg, I am the kingdom's warrior Captain Gazef Stranov. We met in Karn village some time ago." "I remember you, Captain." Pandora deliberately disguised her voice to sound young and steady. Compared with the old-fashioned voice, it was more mysterious. Gazef knew that experts like to hide their identities, so even if the voice was different, he couldn't be mistaken by the iconic armor. "I'm sorry for the damage to the forest. The man named Eli escaped using teleportation magic, otherwise I would have captured him and apologized to him together." Gazef noticed the key point in the words. Teleportation magic was not a low-level magic. It could be basically confirmed that it was the legendary savior Eli. The fact that he was beaten and forced to flee could also prove that the person in front of him was Lord Gaun's companion. "I heard from the soldiers about what happened between you. Could there be a misunderstanding? You should sit down and have a good talk." Pandora stroked her chin, looking like she was thinking, and finally nodded, "Okay, I believe in the warrior leader, and I also want to meet the guild leader in Zach. What do you think?" Gazef heaved a sigh of relief. After all, he was responsible for the incident. The best outcome would be for him to be responsible for solving it. He didn't know what the nobles would do with it. It was really a headache. "Please move away. This is not the place to talk." Pandora swung her cape handsomely and walked ahead with big strides. Lead the way. Sig, who had just returned to the Empire, felt his eyelids twitching. He didn't know what bad thing had happened. He just hoped that it would not affect the current plan. He was now in the suburbs of the imperial capital. In order to let more people know about the battle, he could not hide the tragic situation, so he did not open the portal directly in his residence. Nabe's voice came. She leaned against the corner, her ears twitching slightly. Lord Sig, that human, slug, is here again. Do you need me to drive him away? The Duke. Yes, it's him. Sig's fingers tapped rhythmically on the armor on his arm. He was thinking about what to say next. He couldn't show too much happiness now and had to stay rational. Give him some information about my mission to the kingdom and ask him to wait for a moment. I will be back soon. Nabe pouted slightly and muttered, I don't think it's necessary to accommodate an ordinary human like this. Thinking of her current expression, Sig said helplessly, he is a key figure, try to be respectful to him, and don't be willful, Nabe. Yes, sir. Nabe originally wanted to say something, but after hearing what Sig said, she could only agree reluctantly. Have Lupus Regina prepared and meet me at the Singing Apple Pavilion. Sig ruffled his hair, broke off a corner of his mask, sprinkled some dust on his clothes, and disguised himself as a tragic person. Oh, yes, I almost forgot. He stuck out his tongue, aimed his fangs at it, and stabbed it with a pop sound. Bright red blood immediately oozed out of the wound. While the wound had not yet healed, he squeezed out a few drops of blood and smeared them on the corner of his mouth. After finishing this set, Sig nodded with satisfaction. Now he looked like he had just gone through a fierce battle. The Singing Apple Pavilion was crowded at this time. Almost every table was full of people and the noisy sounds were endless. For the workers, such scenes were commonplace. Someone who had just come in looked at Lupus Regina, who was occupying a table all by herself, and immediately a lewd smile appeared on his face. He had never seen such a beautiful woman before and almost thought he was seeing things. Just as he was about to walk over, someone tapped him on the shoulder. Anger showed on his face. What are you doing? I advise you not to go. They are the Dragon Slayer sisters. When he saw the blonde man, he was about to get angry, but after hearing what the other party said, he immediately changed his attitude and left in shame. The half-elf Imina pinched her waist and showed a look of contempt. You shouldn't remind this kind of person. Just let him learn a lesson. See if he dares to look around with those eyes again. I can teach her a lesson, but that will cause trouble to Miss Lupe, so let's forget it. Hecarim smiled and tried to smooth things over. I haven't seen Lord Eli. Archie said softly, leaning on her staff. That person is more than capable of carrying out the mission on his own. I guess he is acting alone. Roberdike guessed. The people who came were none other than the 4 counselors of the worker team. As expected, Ainz did not leave the team as she said. After no longer having to pay off her parents' debts, the workers' wages were enough to support her and her sister. Now they had extra money to buy props to enhance their own strength, and the entire team became stronger. Now, Arkau is not so afraid of death in the future. Everyone will die one day. As long as she saves enough money, her sister will surely grow up healthily. What she is more worried about is that Lord Eli will not be able to fulfill his long-cherished wish. Such a great and compassionate person should not have such an ending. The dragon and the like should die quickly. Crack. The door of the hotel was pushed open again, and many people looked up at the door out of habit. They exclaimed in surprise as if they had seen something incredible. That's Eli from Dragon Slayer, right? Why is he so miserable? There are very few people who can hurt a 5th-level magic caster. Who did this? He must be a legendary figure, right? Human beings' gossip is the most easily exploitable thing. They will spread information quickly, and it will surely spread throughout the city soon. Mr. Eli, are you okay? Lupus Regina rushed over dramatically, put Sig's arm on herself, and helped him sit down at the table. Although she wanted to hug him, she was stopped by his eyes and she quietly stuck out her tongue. Without caring about being a lady, Archie hurried forward and said, Mr. Eli, what happened? Sig searched for the other party's name in his mind and said in a hoarse voice, I Schwet, I'm fine. I just met a madman during the mission and had a fight with him. Who is that guy? A vivid anger appeared on Snow's doll-like face, which scared the people around who were watching the show. Sig was silent for a moment, then said in a deep voice, I heard others call him the Silver Knight. Chapter 60. Sir Eli is quite busy, haha. In order to ease the embarrassment, the Duke laughed dryly twice. Nabe ignored him. She didn't want to chat with inferior creatures. In this situation, the thick-skinned Duke could no longer sit still. He represented the face of the Blood Emperor and could not be so servile for a mere worker. Then I'll take my leave first. Etc. This was the first time Nabe spoke on her own initiative. The Duke, who had already stood up, felt like he was about to cry. He was ordered to win over Eli and his companions and not to do anything rude, so he had been forbearing. He didn't expect Nabe to be so unkind, but he didn't feel angry at being treated like that. This made the experienced Duke sigh at the power of beauty. Nabe spent a few seconds making a cup of tea and placed it on the table. Please enjoy while you wait. The Duke looked at the tea leaves that had not yet unfolded, and sat down reluctantly. Thank you. Since I've already waited, I don't mind an hour or two. Just at this moment, there was a knock on the door, and a servant hurried in and whispered something in the Duke's ear. Nabe naturally heard it clearly, but she pretended not to hear it. Although her acting skills were not very good, the Duke obviously did not notice it. He was still lost in thought. It was almost evening when Sig showed up at the agreed meeting place. At this time, he had changed into ordinary clothes, wearing a white shirt on the upper body and a new mask on his face, but it still couldn't hide the feeling of weakness that was overwhelming him. What does the Duke want to see me about? First of all, I can't take any missions for the time being. I'm sorry to have kept you waiting for so long. The Duke waved his hand to show that he didn't care, and then showed a concerned expression, without any aristocratic airs at all. It was because I visited at the wrong time that you dragged your sick body here. So that's how it is. Has this matter become widely known? Sig sighed, sounding very helpless. Nabe's beautiful eyes widened slightly, and the look she gave the Duke became a little more dangerous. The Duke pretended to be calm and took a sip of tea, and said comfortingly, Sir Eli, this is not entirely a bad thing. You may not know the heroic deeds of the Silver Knight, but fighting him will only make you famous. Oh? Is he famous? Sig asked puzzledly. It's not just about being famous. The Silver Knight is a figure from 100 years ago, one of the 13 heroes. His appearance this time may not be that simple. Something big may be happening. The Duke's guess was quite sharp. He was not just a messenger. However, the Blood Emperor would not keep idle people around him. One had to have some ability to gain a foothold. Sig pretended to ask casually, is it possible that he was pretending? It's unlikely. You must have seen the other party's strength. Why would you ask such a question? It seems that Sig still underestimated the influence of the 5th-level magic caster. It is difficult to believe that a strong man would jump out from the cracks of a stone, but this is the explanation of the Silver Knight, which is much more reasonable. I'm just not sure of the other person's identity. After using this sentence to get away with it, the Duke did not dwell on the matter. His evaluation of Eli had already risen to a higher level, which was reasonable respect. The reason I came here this time is actually to convey a message. In fact, Your Majesty has been paying attention to Lord Eli and hopes to have a chance to meet him. Sig had no reason to refuse such sincere words. He thought for a moment and asked, is that so? Where is it? The Duke was overjoyed. Accepting the meeting meant there was hope. The next step was to believe in the personal charm of His Majesty. His mission would soon be accomplished. There will be a Martial King competition in the arena the day after tomorrow. Someone will invite you to the box at that time. That's troublesome. I also want to see Your Majesty's heroic figure. Although he knew that this might be a polite remark, the Duke did not say much and left with a smile. Sig picked up the teacup and sniffed it, looking at Nabe with a playful expression. It's not a good way to entertain guests. Nabe was visibly panicking. Her ponytail was drooping down and she lowered her head as if she had done something wrong. But this is not our territory. Let's go back first. We still have things to do tomorrow. Sig smiled triumphantly and tapped Nabe's little head. Well, as you command. Nabe covered her head in pain and puffed up her cheeks. On the way back, Nabe couldn't help but ask curiously, Mr. Eli, what are we going to do tomorrow? I met a man named Flutter, but it's probably not easy for you to remember human names. I will try my best. Thinking of Lupus Regina who was able to mingle with humans, Nabe felt that she couldn't continue to be so depressed, and she clenched her fists. Sig didn't expect Nabe to be so motivated. Just as he was about to encourage her, Lupus Regina ran over from a distance. Sig touched each of their heads with his hand and invited them with a smile, "Come and hang out together. I've been too busy to relax with you guys." Lupus Regina followed Sig's hand and came over happily, sticking out her tongue playfully, "Great, let's go buy something delicious together." Just like a large canine, Sig suddenly felt that werewolves were also a kind of canine after all. After visiting the central market, the next day came quickly. The Magic Province, located in the heart of the imperial capital, is where all the magical technologies of the Empire are gathered. The chief here is none other than Flutter, and the highest guarded tower is his daily residence. At this point in time, Flutter was conducting magic experiments with his disciples, and was still delving into issues related to the Death Knight, although there was still no progress. He had been trying to control the Death Knight since he captured it in the Cat's Plains 5 years ago, but even the 6th tier magic he created had no effect. Flutter firmly believed that as long as he could control the Death Knights, he would be able to far surpass the Necromancer Rigurd, one of the 13 heroes, but the current situation made him discouraged. "Teacher, 3 people are asking to see you with a token from His Majesty." A man came hurriedly. He was Flutter's favorite student and was responsible for the security of the Ministry of Magic. "Who is it?" "The leader claims to be Eli the Dragon Slayer. They are the newest group of workers to appear." Flutter thought of the 3-man team that had become famous in the Empire recently, and before he thought about why they wanted to see him, he was already looking forward to discussing magic knowledge with the rumored high-level magic caster Eli. Since he has the token, his master Jerkniv must also want to see them, so he cannot neglect him. He ordered anxiously, "Take the 3 of them to the lounge first. I'll be there soon." Chapter 61. Blood Emperor Jerkniv has recently suffered from stomach pain again. The theocracy didn't know what was going on, and was extremely eager to join forces to deal with the kingdom. Of course, they still hoped that he could continue to search for information about the Silver Knight and the Great Magician in Zoulgown. He didn't quite understand why he had to do this. That was all the information he could find, and it would be futile to continue. To be honest, the Empire and the theocracy are not vassal states, so how can they keep doing such a thankless task? If Jerkniv knew that the Sunlight Scripture was completely destroyed, half of the Dark Scripture were killed or injured, and Captain Godman fled in panic, he would understand why the theocracy was so anxious. Just as he was about to start dealing with the piled-up documents again, there was a knock on the door. A secretary pushed the door open and followed closely by a blonde middle-aged man. Jerkniv smiled slightly. The former was his best secretary, and the latter was his confidant, known as the Duke's man. In fact, the man's title was far from that level, and his father was only a baron. It was supposed to be hereditary, but he was recognized by the Blood Emperor with his outstanding talents, and even paved the way for his younger brother. That's right, he is Nimble Octilanuk, the elder brother of Storm, one of the 4 knights of the Empire. "Your Majesty, Eli the Dragon Slayer has accepted an audience, and the location is in the arena." This was the best news he had heard recently. Jerkniv cleared his throat and smiled confidently again, as if he had regained his energy and was exuding his charm. "Has that been confirmed?" The Duke nodded respectfully. "According to my observation, he has indeed been through a great battle and has just returned from the kingdom." Jerkniv had learned a lot of information through his spies in the kingdom, and his expression became better after hearing the almost certain conclusion. "Then let's do this. Prepare the carriage for the trip. I will meet this great magician in person tomorrow." The secretary spoke at the right time. "Your Majesty, there is one more thing. It seems that Eli brought 2 team members to meet Lord Flutter today." After a brief thought, Jerkniv smiled and said, "Let's see how much information the old man can get out of us." Flutter was the chief court magician who had served 7 generations of emperors and had long since gained his trust. He had acted as a teacher to Flutter since he was old enough to understand. Many of the Empire's policies had a lot to do with him. He was known as a wise sage and was respected by many people. Even the Blood King, who was known for his wisdom, respected Flutter very much and regarded him as a reliable backup, so it should be no problem for him to deal with a magic caster. "The one in front of me is the real god. In order to peek into the abyss of magic, I am willing to give up everything I have." After Sig took off his gloves and then his ring, Flutter's eyes shone with a strange light, and he fell to his knees with a plop, tears streaming down his face, his mouth almost unable to close, and he made no effort to hide his fanatical emotions. "You are exactly the 10th level. Sig can indeed use 10th level magic, but his magic power is still far inferior to Ainz. However, it is enough to deal with the person in front of him. Flutter, who is extremely obsessed with magic, is different from people like Lana in terms of what they want. Although Flutter's strength was insignificant in Nazarick, his influence and status were real, and it would always be beneficial to have him as a subordinate, and Sig did not intend to waste MP using control spell. He took off his mask, revealing his true face. Flutter Paradine, are you willing to become a servant of the Great Tomb of Nazarick? Flutter couldn't help but marvel at Sig's youthful appearance, and stammered, wish, originally intended. Well, even if it means betraying the Baharis Empire. Flutter barely hesitated, and after apologizing to Jerkniv, the Blood Emperor, in his heart, he shouted, of course. Sig helped Flutter up, handed him a handkerchief, and smiled gently, congratulations on making the right choice, Flutter. Even though Flutter was over 300 years old, he stood up immediately and said respectfully, thank you, Master Eli. As a servant of the Great Tomb of Nazarick, what should I do? Although he knew that Eli might be a pseudonym, he did not expect to know his real name. His future home would be the Great Tomb of Nazarick, so he naturally had to know his own use. By the way, I haven't introduced myself yet. Thank you for being so proactive. Sig gave Nabe a look, and the other party immediately understood what he meant. This is the supreme ruler of the Great Tomb of Nazarick, the leader of all dragons, the man at the top of the world, Lord Sigli Hrasvorg. It's actually like this. Hearing this name, Flutter was shocked beyond words. It seemed as if he knew something he shouldn't have known. His expression turned horrified as he looked at Sig, and he knelt down hurriedly, Lord Hrasvorg, I will keep the secret. This is something you should know. There's no need to be so frightened. I still have something for you to do. Please give me your orders. Sig's smiling face turned into a coercive speech, spread the information about the Silver Knight's activities in the kingdom. You don't have to be too clever. You should understand what I mean. Deliberately let the kingdom catch him? That's not difficult, but why do it? Flutter suddenly came to his senses. Curiosity killed the cat. Did he not want to live anymore? Yes, sir. Sig likes smart people. He took out two props from his pocket, one was a short staff inlaid with rubies, and the other was a crystal ball emitting mysterious light. To him, it was rubbish. It could only enhance basic attributes and had no special abilities. But it was good enough to give as a gift. This is a greeting gift. Please accept it to ensure your personal safety, so as to prevent the Blood Emperor from causing trouble to you. Flutter took it excitedly. He had once gone to the base of the 8 Desire Kings to borrow items but was rejected. Now he had the right equipment and it was just a matter of time before he surpassed Ligulet. He was about to kneel down to express his gratitude, but Sig stopped him in time. Save the extra etiquette, just go and complete your task first. Sig felt a little uncomfortable asking a centuries-old man to perform this ritual frequently. Thank you for your mercy, sir. Flutter nodded in agreement. Sig remembered the familiar figure he had seen on the way back and asked curiously, by the way, where did you catch that Death Knight? At first he thought it was Ainz's creation, but then he remembered that he hadn't heard of the Death Knight being captured. I caught it 5 years ago in the Cat's Plains. I have been trying to control it, but have failed. Flutter replied respectfully, his eyes full of desire for the unknown. That's normal. The Death Knight is a mid-level undead. You are not capable enough to control it. Flutter's throat rolled, and he asked with great determination, I am really stupid. With such knowledge and strength, you must not be human. Humph, how could Lord Sig be such an inferior creature as a human? Okay, Nabe. Sig smiled as he looked at Flutter. The shadow beneath his feet gradually changed and his body doubled in size. It's okay to tell you. I'm indeed not human. Chapter 62. Re-Yestai, the capital of the kingdom. Although this place is more prosperous than the walled city of Yelantir, it is still far inferior to the capital of the Baharis Empire. Only the main streets are paved with stone slabs, and many places are still muddy roads. The cleanliness level can be praised, and it is also extremely luxurious. Most of the shops on the central streets are high-end clothing and jewelry stores. Their signs are all shining with golden light. The people coming and going are all well-dressed aristocrats, and there are almost no common people to be seen. This was natural. If the clerk saw someone trying to enter the store without being properly dressed, they would naturally ask them to leave. There was also a hint of contempt in the nobles' conversations. As Sebastian walked down the street, a hint of disgust appeared on his face, and he quickened his pace. He really couldn't agree with this kind of bullying of the weak. Just as Takamai protected the weak, he also wanted to help, but in order to avoid trouble, he couldn't do it after all. He could only turn a blind eye. After crossing the street, there is a hotel with high-end decoration in front of you. It is not an exaggeration to say that this is the most high-end hotel in the kingdom. The cost of staying here is unaffordable for ordinary small nobles, and the drinks provided here are also excellent. Thanks to the money Sig got from the thieves' organization, Sebastian rented a suite here for a long time, solidifying his image as a wealthy man in the empire. Through the attraction of his huge financial resources, he got to know many nobles of the kingdom. Sebastian pushed open the door, and a waiter immediately came up to greet him and asked habitually, "Mr. Sebastian, would you like to go to the bar for a drink?" "Well, did the lady look for me?" Speaking of the beautiful lady, the waiter's face showed a hint of admiration, and even her bad temper did not affect his evaluation of her. He replied respectfully, "No, the young lady did not go out." Sebastian nodded, walked to the bar and found a nearby seat to sit down. There were a few other people in the bar, all of them looked like aristocrats. A few faint chuckles could be heard, and it seemed that they paid great attention to the etiquette of their conversation. However, the environment here is still very good and can be considered quiet. This is what is called you get what you pay for, but Sebastian doesn't care much about this. He is like an elegant white-haired gentleman, exuding a very eye-catching temperament. The women around him are attracted to him and cast their glances at him secretly. He took out a book and a pair of glasses, put them on and looked at it carefully. In fact, Sebastian couldn't understand the words in the book. This pair of glasses was a magic prop that could help him understand the words. The thin silver frame was engraved with tiny words and the lenses were made of pale ice crystal. It was a little simpler than Sig's glasses. As time went on, the attention of the female nobles gradually became more and more enthusiastic. Sebastian looked up and asked gently, "What's the matter?" "Nothing, I just think your posture is very beautiful." "Thank you for your compliment." The women who saw Sebastian's smile blushed and were about to fall for him. Such a graceful butler must be of noble birth. Many third sons of noble families cannot inherit the title or get land, and they have no business acumen, so they are usually hired by other nobles. The maids in the palace are all noble ladies. The higher the status of a person, the more likely he is to hire people of aristocratic origin. This is an immutable law. How can a commoner of humble origin be worthy of a high position? That lady didn't come. A noble man made a disappointed voice. She is just an empty-headed woman. I don't know how Mr. Sebastian puts up with her. Yeah, it's really pitiful. With Mr. Sebastian's ability, he can be a butler for a noble family. The women began to chatter. They had long been complaining about the beautiful lady. If they had Sebastian as their housekeeper, they would definitely not treat her so rudely. The male nobles also stopped talking. They simply wanted to admire the beauty of the young ladies and wanted them to stop being jealous of others. However, the current occasion was obviously not suitable for saying more. No one was stupid enough to do that. After replying, Sebastian ordered a drink and continued reading. But if you observe carefully, you will find that his attention is not completely focused on the book. Once someone mentions something secret, his ears will twitch slightly. Have you heard? The Silver Knight appeared in the kingdom and saved the warrior captain. Your versions are all from the past. I have found out the latest news. The Silver Knight and Eli had a fight in a nearby forest. It is said that there was a big pit at the scene. Who won, then? Of course it's the Silver Knight. They all ran away when Eli was done. The hero was talking about a 5th-tier magic caster, but that's all. Wow, this feels amazing. The Silver Knight must be an immortal species like the forest elves, otherwise how could he live so long? Didn't the Empire's Flutter live for more than 200 years? It's better for us not to make wild guesses. Now our kingdom needs a protector too. I think the warrior captain is not good enough. People who come from commoner backgrounds are simply unreliable. Everyone echoed. Sebastian put the book away, strode out of the bar, and after instructing the waiter to tell Suo Liuxiang that he was going out to buy some, he walked back into the street. Let's go for a walk over there today. He was collecting information about the geography of the capital and would often walk around, but today he also wanted to visit some places with poor security to confirm how far the rumors about the Silver Knights had spread. Sebastian knew the details of the invasion plan, and although he felt it was a little unpleasant, he had no objection at all. Lord Sig always works so hard for Nazarick. He really doesn't know what to say except to express his gratitude. After turning a few corners, Sebastian came to a deserted back alley, surrounded by the stench of kitchen waste and excrement. He was about to end his walk when a hand grabbed his trouser leg. "Help, help, me." The woman made a final weak cry for help. "Old man, what are you looking at?" Sebastian's pupils constricted, and he exuded murderous intent towards the man who caught up with him. After seeing the woman he brought back, Suo Liuxiang showed an expressionless and cold look. She was the type with few expressions, but that didn't mean Sebastian didn't understand that she was in a bad mood. "But since I have already brought it back, I have no choice but to continue talking about it. Demiurge will definitely be very angry about this matter, so I have to handle it in a low-key manner." Chapter 63. With Soraka's treatment, the rescued person woke up quickly. Sebastian's gentle and gentlemanly behavior made her open her heart a little, and she said her name was Tswer. Suo Liuxiang was very confused about Sebastian's behavior, but she did not disobey orders out of her duty as a subordinate. From any perspective, there is no benefit in rescuing this human being, and it is easy to get into trouble. If you don't want to kill him, the best option is to throw him away quickly. Sebastian was quite adamant about this point. If he would easily abandon a helpless person, he would not have saved him in the first place. He used the reason that it might still be useful and asked Suo Liuxiang to wait and see what happened and let him handle everything. A very helpless expression appeared on Suo Liuxiang's face, and a wave of irritation surged in her heart. She really couldn't understand it. There was no doubt that the loyalty of all NPCs was full, even the penguin assistant Ikular who always said that he wanted to rule Nazarick, but Sebastian's behavior was almost on the verge of betrayal. Knowing clearly that this might hinder the execution of Lord Ainz's orders, he still insisted on rescuing humans. This was already a very serious situation and completely violated the principle of putting the interests of the Supreme Being first. As expected, the store that Tswer worked for soon caused trouble. When Sebastian rescued the man, he threw down a bag of money as the price for not causing trouble, but this became a handle in the other party's hand. They insisted that it was a human transaction, and that they had bought off the clerk with money. If she didn't want to go to jail, she had to settle privately, which meant agreeing to their terms, paying a huge sum of money and letting the lady take Tswer's place for a while. Suo Liuxiang was very hesitant at this time, but she finally took out the scroll from her body, and felt a connection like a thread, and said, "Is it Lord Sig?" "Well, Suo Liuxiang, what's the matter with contacting me?" Master Sebastian rescued a human without authorization. Suo Liuxiang paused. Contacting Lord Sig first was the greatest favor she could do as a subordinate, and the next step was to inform him truthfully. Unexpectedly, Sig said directly, "Contact Demiurge. I will notify the president personally. Don't act rashly before I arrive." "Yes, sir." When Soraka's voice disappeared, Sig sighed helplessly. What was supposed to happen had happened. With Sebastian's personality, he would make the same choice no matter how many times it happened. Where NPCs are not set, they will inherit the personality of their creators. Ultimately, Takamai is the culprit. It seemed that he had to go to the kingdom before meeting the Blood Emperor. Sig contacted Ainz via message and briefly explained the situation. It feels very much like Takami-san's personality. Inside from the other side. He certainly didn't think Sebastian would betray him, so he cleared his throat again. "Sig-san, I'll leave this matter to you. I believe you can handle it. Aren't you going to show up?" Sig asked puzzledly. Sebastian is Takamai's child after all. Besides Takamai, the person he respects most is you. How do you know? In response to Sig's question, Ainz smiled and said, "I have seen the settings of most NPCs. I have a deep impression of Sebastian. He is a very stubborn person. So he is a copy of Takamai." Sig held his forehead helplessly. "I'll leave Demiurge to you as well. Speaking of this matter, Sig gets a headache, and there will definitely be another quarrel." At this time, Demiurge had just finished drawing up a plan to attack the royal capital, and he was humming a song happily while working. In order to facilitate his movements, he took off his coat and wore only a shirt and vest, with a serious and earnest expression. He took a piece of bone and polished it. When he saw that the shape was right, he embedded it into the prop, so that the bones could be tightly combined to form a perfect bite. "Almost done." Demiurge smiled as he stroked the bone products that could be called works of art. He liked jobs similar to those of craftsmen, where he could not only make handicrafts and furniture, but his skills were so sophisticated that they surpassed those of craftsman players, and could be described as ingenious. Noticing a slight sound coming from the entrance of the tent, Demiurge immediately became alert. The first person to open the curtain was the man wearing a birdbeak mask. It was Pulcinella, who was currently helping out at the ranch as his assistant. The next person to come in was a man in a neat suit. He had a very handsome face and an almost perfect figure. Demiurge immediately knelt down and saluted. There were only 2 people who could make him so flustered. "How did Lord Sig find the time to come to me? Is there something important you want to talk to me about?" Sig nodded, not knowing how to start, and changed the subject. "What are you doing?" "Yes, this is a gift prepared for the 2 adults, but it is not yet finished." Looking at the chair that looked like it was made of human bones and subhuman bones, Sig showed no reaction on the surface, but he actually rejected it in his heart. He really had no desire to sit on this thing. "Forget it for now. I don't have any return gifts, and I prefer the softness of fur to bone products." "I see," Demiurge said with a look of sudden enlightenment. In order to prevent his idea from being misunderstood and making a terrifying human skin platter, he quickly said, "Especially the ones with more fur. Ikule's fur is too sparse. It's like hamsuk. That's about it. I'm really sorry that you have so many requirements for the gift." Demiurge quickly said that it was okay, and that it was his honor to serve the Supreme Being. "Thank you, Lord Sig, for clearing up my confusion. I now understand. Thanks to the tools bestowed by Lord Sig, everyone can be happy. Your servant Pulcinella is extremely grateful." Pulcinella bowed gracefully, with respect in his tone. As a clown, Canperna is widely known for his gentleness and compassion. The purpose of his creation is to make everyone happy. Sig, who is so compassionate that he allows 2-legged sheep to be happy, naturally has a very high status in his heart. Sig then remembered the divine healing that he had once given him, the feather that could heal all wounds, and he coughed lightly and asked, "It's good as long as it works?" "Yes, the losses have been greatly reduced, all thanks to Lord Sig. I'm very happy to see that the ranch has been built so well. The magic scrolls will gradually decrease as they are used. Demiurge has made a great contribution, and Campanella has also worked hard." Even though he knew the true meaning of 2-legged sheep, Sig was in no position to stop it. He could not suppress his subordinates who worked hard and uncomplainingly just because of his pity. Moreover, the consumption of magic scrolls was indeed huge, and this problem did exist. "Demiurge, what I'm going to tell you next is something serious, something about Sebastian." "What?" Demiurge lost his composure for the first time, his diamond eyes flashing coldly. "Sebastian, how dare you do this? You disobeyed the orders of the Ainz people for the will of your former creator Takamai, and let Sig-sama down." Chapter 64. Sebastian walked towards the closed door with extremely heavy steps. He wished that time could pass more slowly, but it was obviously not possible. "Lord Sig and Lord Demiurge are here. Please come in," Lord Sebastian said Soraka, who was guarding the door. Sebastian broke out in sweat, but he thanked him politely. "Thank you, Suo Liuk Siang. If it was Sig-sama, there might be hope of saving Pswear's life." Such thoughts were extremely rude, but he did not think that Lord Ainz was cruel and inhumane. It was normal for a ruler to impose punishment under his authority. Even if he was asked to kill Kier, he would not feel any resentment. This was because he did not handle things properly. Lord Sig and Lord Takamai were once close friends, so perhaps they can understand his actions. No, Sebastian felt ashamed. He was trying to take advantage of the friendship between the 2 adults. Perhaps Lord Ainz did not show up this time just for Lord Sig's sake. He could not push his luck any further. Suo Liuk Siang's eyes flickered. He nodded and said nothing more. "What's wrong? Aren't you coming in, Sebastian?" Sig picked up the teacup and took a sip, with an inexplicable smile on his face. Beads of sweat appeared on Sebastian's forehead, and a chill rushed from the soles of his feet to his head. "Excuse me, I'm very sorry that I couldn't pay you a visit the first time." Just as he was about to get closer and pretend to listen, Demiurge spoke loudly, "Just stand there." Sebastian noticed Demiurge's slightly angry expression and stopped dead in his tracks. His nervous sweat almost soaked his clothes. Sig held his chin lazily. "Sebastian, I'm not actually here to blame you this time." "Sig adults!" Demiurge and Sebastian exclaimed almost at the same time. Sig raised his hand to signal the 2 to be quiet, and gave Demiurge a soothing look. The latter let out a long sigh and said nothing more helplessly. But I still want to confirm whether you have betrayed me. Bring Swear up here. Sebastian stared at the floor, thinking that what was coming had finally come. Swear gasped almost immediately after being let in, but because Sig and Demiurge did not give off any obvious hostility and they also maintained a nearly human appearance, she was not frightened to the point of crying. This is Miss Swear, right? You can think of me as Sebastian's master. He got into trouble because he did something unnecessary during the mission, namely saving you. How should this account be settled? Sig's gentle voice did not make Kier relax at all. After understanding the meaning, her body shook like a sieve. Sorry. Sorry doesn't seem to be of any use. You've gotten yourself into a lot of trouble. Swear knew what those people were doing, so she believed what Sig said. In fact, she also anticipated her own ending. She glanced at Sebastian's figure with the corner of her eyes and smiled with relief. With Sebastian's keen sense, he naturally noticed it, but he was powerless to do anything now, and his shoulders trembled slightly. That's right, it wasn't him who was blaming, but Swear. He would rather be scolded by Lord Sig than to stand here and watch others pay for his mistakes. This was too tormenting. Kier said with all her strength, please take me back. But that won't solve the problem. I heard that your store is owned by 8 Fingers. That kind of illegal and criminal organization will definitely not let go. Greed is human nature. Sig spoke slowly, without any blame in his tone, but that didn't mean he wanted to let the person in front of him go. Lord Sig is right. Demiurge bowed slightly and said coldly, if you really want to make amends, then hang yourself. It is an honor for lower creatures to be able to choose their own way of death. Noticing Swear's body tremble, Sebastian finally spoke after a long silence, Lord Sig, can you spare her life? She may be of other use. She would have other uses if she were alive, but I can't think of any reason to keep her. She is good at cooking. Sebastian was not confident when he said this. Demiurge smiled reluctantly, Sebastian, if you want to take her place, I can do it. Is it possible that Lord Sebastian will die? This thought made Swear panic. Her life was not worth mentioning, but this person was not. I am willing to die, please don't embarrass Lord Sebastian. Difficult. Demiurge was so angry that he could hardly maintain his expression. If Lord Sig had not warned him in advance, he would definitely not let this human go. Sig's eyes switched between the two of them, neither agreeing nor refusing. In the deathly silence, the atmosphere was terribly depressing. Okay, then let's save her life. From now on, Swear will be in your care, Sebastian. Thank you, Master Sig. But this is still a hidden danger. We need to root out the weeds at the root. Let's add 8 fingers to our target, Demiurge. Sig's expression then took on a chill, and the air seemed to have dropped a few degrees, but only Kier was affected, the other two remained calm. As you wish. Demiurge nodded in response. That's it, Sebastian, please continue with your mission for now. When the plan starts, you will be the main combat force. Remember to be prepared. We are leaving now. As he was speaking, Sig had already opened the portal and stepped in, followed closely by Demiurge. Please go slowly. After watching the two people disappear, Sebastian finally relaxed completely, even his palms were sweaty. Kier took out a clean handkerchief, stood on tiptoe to wipe the sweat off his face, and then kissed him on the lips while he wasn't paying attention, then quickly separated. This is the first time I've felt a sweet kiss, even though it stung my lips a bit. Sebastian's face turned slightly red, especially the tips of his ears. Although he looked like an old man, he was actually very young in the setting, not much different from Swear. With my help, their relationship should progress quickly, Sig thought. Master Sig, why don't you give the punishment? Looking back at Demiurge, who still didn't understand, he sighed and said, don't meddle in the affairs of the young couple. He had to bite the bullet and explain again. After Takamai and Albert were removed, Demiurge's doubts were much less, but still not completely eliminated. Well, I also want to see what level your children can reach. I understand. Lord Sig and Albedo will also. Demiurge looked at Sig with his bright and shining eyes. Stop. Demiurge said with a somewhat regretful tone, Lord Sig should think more about his own affairs. For example, giving birth to a little master. After all, it is unlikely to rely on Lord Ainz. It is difficult for the undead without a physical body to give birth to offspring in a normal way. This probably means that you haven't even taken care of your own affairs yet you are still worrying about your subordinate's love lives. No, he just felt it was too fast. Sig was in distress. Was he too conservative? Chapter 65. However, since you care about us so much, Demiurge, please tell Albedo for me. I have other things to do and don't have time to stay at home for the time being. Sig said this with a grin, without any airs of a supreme leader. I see. Demiurge remained respectful, but he did not think that this meant he could relax. Sebastian had made such a huge mistake, and although Lord Sig would not pursue the matter, the impact of this incident could not be ignored. We must work harder and not let Lord Ainz and Lord Sig down again. They are the last supreme beings left and we must not lose them. He pushed up his glasses and offered his suggestion. The plan has almost been deployed. I think it would be safer to let Pandora meet the Blood Emperor on your behalf, and Master Sig should meet up with Master Ainz to discuss the matter first. Demiurge didn't mean to think Pandora was unreliable, he just wanted to see the two adults fighting side by side. What was wrong with that? Sig actually took this into consideration. Pandora couldn't play the role of the Silver Knight for a long time, and there might be some unexpected situations in the next plan. If he took the stage himself, the chance of accidents would be much lower. He finally nodded and agreed, well, you are really thoughtful. Thank you for your concern. Lord Sig, please don't say that. This is my duty. Demiurge couldn't help but smile, and his voice was a little fanatical. Let Shalter's slave lead the way this time. He has some reputation in the kingdom and is very familiar with the warrior captain. Brian Unglaus knelt down and saluted. His originally sloppy appearance was completely changed. His hair was neatly combed, his face was shaved clean, and he wore a brand new sword at his waist. After staying in Nazarick for a few days, he basically adapted to life here, and the blow to his self-confidence caused by his weak strength also recovered. Even the wise king of the forest has surrendered, so there is no point in him resisting. He should just do odd jobs. Fortunately, Shaltir has no interest in training him. Servant Brian Unglaus, meeting Master Sig. It seems that Shaltir has taught you well. I hope you can complete your work seriously and don't let me down. Sig's casual polite words didn't sound like that to Brian's ears, and his body trembled slightly. He remembered what his master had told him, that he must behave well and speak well of her in front of Lord Sig, otherwise he would really die. Yes, sir. In the blink of an eye, Sig appeared in the kingdom's capital. At that time, the Golden Princess Lana was drinking afternoon tea. A small black figure appeared in the shadow and conveyed the news to her. Her face was immediately covered with a terrifying smile. It's finally about to begin. All I have to do from now on is be patient. The maid quietly pushed open the door and said, Your Highness, it's time for a walk. Would you like me to accompany you? No need. Call Clem over. He'll be there for us. You can leave now. Lana returned to her original perfect smile and tilted her head slightly. The innocent and kind expression, coupled with the deliberate tilt of the head, can easily make people feel irritated. Sure enough, a trace of contempt flashed in the maid's eyes. Of course, this was not directed at Lana. She just didn't understand why she, a daughter of a noble family, could not compare to Clem, who came from a humble background. Lana took in every detail of the maid's performance, and after she left, a hint of murderous intent flashed in her eyes. It's just that she can't stand her Clem and keeps saying bad things about him behind his back. She really wants to kill him, but she can't do that now. Although she was just a maid, she was also considered a noble, and her sudden death would be very troublesome. However, she had already memorized this person's appearance, and her noble identity would soon be meaningless anyway, so that would be the time for the real show to begin. Well, we have to be ready. Lana clapped her hands lightly, raised her hands and carefully adjusted her expression in front of the mirror. At the same time, she was also relaxing the muscles of her face so as to receive the guests with the best appearance. The Francia Palace is the residence of the royal family. The corridors are polished to a gleaming shine. At this time, guests are welcomed in the huge palace. All the staff of Keng Qiangwei came to the room where Lana often entertained guests. The arrival of 5 people made the room a little crowded. In fact, the main problem was with Gaglin. She was muscular and equipped with armor. She was like a moving mountain. Among the 5, only the captain, Lakyus Elbian Drew A. Indra, wore formal attire. the others were all wearing clothes that adventurers usually wore. This behavior was extremely rude when meeting a princess, but since Lakias and Lana were good friends, no one paid much attention to it. That person hasn't come yet. Ibrua was getting a little impatient. How could he sit still when he heard someone pretending to be his companion? Lana glanced at the mysterious girl in a red robe and a mask without leaving a trace, and secretly made a plan in her mind. She remembered that Lakias once said that the strongest among the blue roses was this girl. According to her inference, this person might be the legendary vampire known as Nation Destroyer, and the person who needed to be most guarded against. Don't be anxious. Her Royal Highness the Princess has promised. I just want to see what kind of man would pretend to be a hero. Gageland said. I heard it was a man wearing full body armor. Tia, the twin ninja, said. He also defeated a masked 5th level magic caster. Tina added at the right time. Ibrua said angrily, what are you looking at me for? It's not like I'm defeated. I'm not that weak. She couldn't afford to be looked down upon at a time like this. How could she be outdone by a fake? Please wait a little longer. The warrior captain will be here soon. Please don't be too rude in front of that gentleman. Lakias said seriously. Lana smiled and said, don't be too nervous, there might be some hidden story, just talk about it. So you know that the man is an imposter. Ibrua's tone became a little tougher, with a hint of interrogation. Oh, I forgot to mention that Lord Hrasvalg admitted from the beginning that he was not a Silver Knight. This time, the warrior captain wanted to explain it to everyone. Lana replied calmly, still smiling. I'm sorry, I misunderstood you. Following Lakias's gaze, Ibrua apologized readily and closed her mouth without saying anything else. It doesn't matter, it's almost time. There was a knock on the door. Lana tidied her hair and opened the door with brisk steps. Come in. Chapter 66. The moment Gazef saw Brian, he was almost stunned. Firstly, he did not expect to see him in such an occasion, and secondly, the other person's temperament had changed so much that he could hardly recognize him. Brian, do you know Lord Hrasvalg? Brian unconsciously raised his hand to cover his mouth to hide his fangs. After he came to his senses, he touched his chin. His fingers touched his beardless skin, and he felt even more at a loss. He forced a smile. Yes, when the dragon descended, it was Lord Sig who saved me. I have been recuperating in his residence all this time. Sir Sig? Such a friendly name, it seems like the two of them are very familiar with each other. Gazef guessed, does that mean you have become his subordinate? Yes, Lord Sig is a very powerful warrior. I am really inferior to him. To be his enemy is to seek death, so he is ready to follow him. Brain spoke half-truthfully, not sure if Gazef could understand the implication in his words. He hoped that he could understand. They are obviously powerful monsters, who fabricated false identities to fool humans and used their wits to carry out invasions. How could they possibly win when the only weapons of the weak were taken away? There is no doubt that going against them will definitely lead to death. Gazef nodded with some relief. You have finally found your place. Although I want you to work for the kingdom with me, forget it. My job is a tough one. Brian opened his mouth, but finally nodded. Not only because of the constraints of the contract, but also because he caught a glimpse of the armored figure approaching from the corner of his eye. In front of Sig, he was so afraid of saying the wrong thing that he didn't even dare to say anything suggestive. If he made a mistake, Shaltir would definitely kill him. Sir, are you ready? Sig stopped and stood still. Even in this relaxed posture, Gazef could not see any flaws. It seemed that even if he used the martial artsy weakness, the result would be the same. This was a top-notch warrior. He bowed and said, Lord Hrasvalgr, I am truly sorry for what happened earlier. Sig waved his hands, acting very generous. It's okay. Guildmaster Ainz did this because of his job. It's just a misunderstanding, so just clear it up. Gazef showed a grateful look and bowed again, thank you for your generosity. But I am definitely not a Silver Knight. I didn't have a chance to refute it at the time. I have always hoped to clarify this matter. Gazef showed a somewhat embarrassed expression. First he was mistaken for a dangerous person, and then he was treated as a fake. Anyone would feel uncomfortable being treated like this. In fact, he was also quite shocked by the news. His face changed when he heard it for the first time. It turned out that a person with such powerful strength was not a celebrity. Could he have popped out from a crack in a rock? There have been people in history who suddenly awakened powers, but with such complete equipment and elegant manners and conversation, I think they were not ordinary people. Thanks to Pandora's perfect acting skills, Gazef and the Adventurers Guild leader had completely believed his words. Sig asked in confusion, "Is there a problem? I have a humble request. Could you please continue to play the role of the Silver Knight?" The news of the Silver Knight's appearance has spread, and the Empire seems to have known about it as well. The news has spread like wildfire, and it seems that they want to win them over. People in the kingdom have already taken this matter as a topic of conversation, and related discussions can be heard on the streets. Some even attributed the previous battle to the country's position. The kingdom's Silver Knights defeated the Empire's worker Eli. This was a victory destined by God. It is undeniable that many people in the kingdom were excited by the news, and they were full of confidence in the upcoming war with the Empire. If we clarify it at this time, things will become very troublesome. Sig pretended to think about it, then slowly shook his head. "I don't like assuming other people's identities. You are a traveler, so you certainly don't want to reveal your identity. Using the name of the Silver Knight is a good cover, and it is also convenient when doing something." Gazef paused and said seriously, "The kingdom and the Empire are about to go to war, and it is time to boost morale. This is my selfish request. Are you saying that I can use this identity? But the real owner is probably not dead yet. Is it really okay to make a decision on my own? Among the people I'm going to meet this time, one is a companion of the Silver Knight. Although it may seem a bit shameless, I will try my best to persuade him. Please come with me." Seeing Gazef's sincere expression, Sig felt that it was enough and it would be impolite not to agree. He said coldly, "Explain it first." Gazef smiled in relief. He knew very well that this was an impolite request, and even suspected of moral kidnapping, but Siglihrisforg still agreed to it. He was truly a chivalrous man. He should have known long ago that if it weren't for Lord Gong and Lord Hrasvag, he would not have been alive today, but he had to obey His Majesty's orders. Outside the door, the warrior captain, Brian, and Sig walked in one after another. After greeting Lana, they entered the formal meeting stage. After a brief self-introduction, Gazef began to talk about letting Sig continue to play the role of Silver Knight, and everyone's eyes were focused on Ibruat. As a senior who has lived for more than 200 years and fought against the devil together with the 13 heroes, she has the most say in this matter. I don't mean to embarrass you, but this is only one side of the story. If you want to communicate, you should show your true colors. No problem, but I also want to see what you really look like. Ibruat hummed and hugged her chest in a cute way. Okay. Looking at the two people confronting each other, the others were a little helpless. Perhaps masters all have their own personalities. However, they were soon attracted to the next part. The moment when the secrets were revealed was the most interesting. Let me go first. Sig slowly took off his helmet, revealing first his black hair, then his angular jaw. When his entire face was exposed, the women at the scene all exclaimed in unison. "So handsome, do you want to come with me?" Gagelan, who always appears to be rough, rarely said it so bluntly, and called himself I instead of Laozi. Lake Yes was about to reprimand her companion for being so rude, when she heard Sig reply seriously, "Sorry, my profession is a paladin, so I have to remain a virgin." Of course it was made up. He was not worthy of a good woman like Gagelan. Ah, what a pity! Lake Yes screamed in her heart. Lana still kept smiling, she had expected this. The Supreme One must be a very stunning person, she was just a little surprised. Then it's my turn. Ibruat came back to his senses and put his hand over the mask, revealing his original face, but his cheeks were slightly red. This is all right. Something like this? Chapter 67. Ibruat's pretty face behind the mask was completely beautiful, especially her gem-like red pupils. She just looks young, like only 12 or 13 years old, completely a little girl. Even Brian, who doesn't care about food or meat, would not attack a child of this age, especially after he noticed that the other party was also a vampire. He no longer had any other thoughts in his mind. Higher-level vampires will suppress the blood of lower-level ones, but he did not feel it, which means that the Shaltir who transformed him is much stronger than the Ibruat in front of him. As expected, even King Qianggui is helpless. Is there anyone who can really defeat these monsters? Gazef was not a lustful person, he just sighed softly. It was surprising that his face was still so childish after hundreds of years. Climb satisfied his curiosity and turned to look at Lana beside him without lingering for too long. He already had someone in his heart and would not be tempted by other women. At this moment, Lana also looked at him, and their eyes met. Climb blushed and hurriedly dodged. Lana chuckled, a smile of amusement creeping quietly onto her face. Clem was indeed her good dog. Now that we have established some initial trust, we can sit down and have a good talk. Since the Golden Princess had spoken, Ibarua had no intention of refutation and quickly put on the mask to cover her slightly red cheeks. But didn't you notice? Sig's voice was slightly cold. He didn't cover his face immediately. Instead, he looked up at the ceiling with a layer of anger on his face. Someone is using surveillance magic. Hearing this, everyone present stood up in shock, except Ibarua, who remained relatively calm. I don't have to pretend to be someone else. I am only attending this meeting for the sake of the warrior captain. Please allow me to excuse myself until I get a reasonable explanation. After Sig finished speaking without allowing any room for rebuttal, he opened the door and walked out with Brian, heading straight to the lounge next door. Lakia seemed to have thought of something. Ibarua, do you know something? It should be Ligulet. Ibarua grabbed her hair in distress. She didn't know this would happen. According to his guess, the leader must be the Platinum Dragon King, the real Silver Knight, who is a very difficult guy to deal with. It turned out to be Senior Ligulet. The warrior sighed and said, "What should we do now?" Lana thought for a moment and smiled. "It's okay. Lord Hrasvalg is a very considerate person. I think he guessed that no one knew about this matter, so he didn't leave directly. But we must show a sincere attitude. As the most distinguished person present and the mastermind of this meeting, Golden Princess Lana obviously has the highest say. Just in case, I want to ask you one more question. Is there anything else you are hiding?" Noticing everyone's eyes focused on him, Ibarua stood up anxiously, "Absolutely no more." Lana stood up gracefully. "I will go and ask for his opinion in person. Please wait for a moment in the meantime." Just as Climb was about to stand up and follow, he was stopped by the other party with a gentle smile. "To show my sincerity, I will go alone. This is the royal city, so don't worry." "Yes." Although he was still worried, Climb would follow Lana's orders. This was his duty as a guard. After entering the room, Lana immediately changed into a respectful attitude, as if the person in front of her was the princess and she was just a commoner, but the truth may be even more outrageous. "Nice to meet you, Golden Princess." The person sitting on the sofa was Sig, who left angrily, but he looked kind and didn't seem angry at all, and his tone was relaxed enough to forget any previous unpleasantness. But Lana didn't dare to be careless. She half knelt on the ground and said, "Just call me Lana, Master Sig. It seems that Demiurge has told you everything. You know what to do about today's incident." Sig's unintentional knocking on the table made Lana's heart rise instantly. She knew that she couldn't say anything casually at this time and had to make the wisest choice. "I will definitely do my best to facilitate the success of the meeting and make it a natural and correct process for you to become a Silver Knight." Sig nodded. Lana meant to use this matter as a bargaining chip to show her magnanimity while standing on the moral high ground. But just because there is no need to leave the market at all, there must be other purposes. He lowered his eyes to look at Lana's true face. Her sapphire-like eyes were dull and she had a slightly sick smile on her face. This was the true face of the Golden Princess, a real monster. "Please help me delay a little, about 15 minutes. I have other things to do." "You should be able to do it, right?" "Yes, sir." Lana responded in a low voice. "You should leave now." Lana heaved a sigh of relief after closing the door. This hurdle was finally passed. In order to live with Climb forever, she had to work harder. The only thing she could rely on was her own wisdom, and she must not make any mistakes. When he and Brain were the only ones left in the room, he sent a message, "Is that Albedo?" "Sir Sig, what do you want to talk to me about?" "If you just want to chat, that's totally fine. I'm not busy at all now. You can contact me at any time." Hearing Albedo's slightly noisy voice, Sig would have listened to it all under normal circumstances, but now the situation was urgent and he had no choice but to stop her. "I have something serious to tell you. I need anti-tracking and surveillance magic. Can I use your sister?" Albedo, who was lying almost naked on the bed, sat up in surprise and said solemnly, "Sir Sig, may I ask the reason?" There were many people in Nazarick who could use reverse tracking magic, but her sister Nigret was the only level 100 NPC specialized in investigation. Even Lord Ainz could not match her intelligence-gathering ability. Could it be that we encountered a powerful enemy? Just as you thought. If the opponent wasn't so powerful, I wouldn't need Nicolade to go out. If support is needed, I will notify Demiurge immediately, Albedo said anxiously. Sig comforted him softly, don't make such a fuss. Demiurge has other things to do, and it's not time to take action yet. If you are really worried, you can come in person. Remember to bring a tool to hide your figure. Really? Albedo's surprised voice sounded in his mind, and Sig smiled, didn't I promise you? Let's celebrate this unexpected surprise together, we'll find you soon, Platinum Dragon King. Chapter 68. In an unknown cave, a giant dragon was perched on a high platform in the center. Its scales looked silver at first glance, but to be precise they were platinum. The armor placed next to it was the same color. Chaindulus Baxiang. He is the son of the Dragon Emperor, one of the 13 heroes, the chief of the Council Nation, and the strongest Dragon King in existence, the Platinum Dragon King. It's shocking how easily it was discovered. Char, it seems that your magical ability has regressed a lot. The speaker was an old-looking woman dressed as a magic caster, with an exquisite sword hanging from her waist and a lively smile that didn't match her appearance. He looked to be over 50 years old, but his actual age was much older than that. He seemed to be a few years older than Flutter and was of the same generation as Ibiru. That's right, she is also one of the 13 heroes, the undead messenger Ligurat Bekas Kalau. Because he had once joined the team of the warrior Captain Master, he was very familiar with him and always called him a senior. He did not lose contact with him after the team was disbanded and even gave away rare props. What should we do next? Ligurat restrained her smile and her face became more serious. Let's wait and see. Since it's for the sake of the kingdom, the Golden Princess will definitely try her best to make this happen. The Platinum Dragon King said seriously. That's one way, but there's no need to go to such lengths to just borrow a name. What we're traveling with is just an empty set of armor. Ligurat frowned slightly, and it seemed that she still had some complaints about how they had been deceived that year. The Platinum Dragon King was also helpless. He definitely couldn't travel with this body and could only control the armor remotely. After so many years, they still wouldn't let him go. This time is different. The power that pollutes the world has appeared again. The aftershocks of a century are coming again. What is their nature this time? It's not certain yet, so we have to continue to observe. Ligurat suddenly reacted, her pupils trembling slightly. You mean this Sigli is the same as the leader? We didn't fight at the time because of the interference magic. I only saw his silhouette, so I can't judge whether his nature is evil or not. Although he had cooperated with the theocracy, he did not completely agree with their practices. As the Dragon King, he has no preference for any race. All he wants to do is to keep the continent from being polluted by foreign players and maintain a balanced state. He will not care about normal fights during this period, but if there are destroyers who wantonly use player props, he will personally take action to solve the problem. By the way, can the projection only show the scene in this room? The Platinum Dragon King nodded, this is the only accuracy I can achieve, but it's enough. If I'm caught doing something tricky again, this meeting will be completely ruined. Ligurat nodded in agreement. That's true. I also hope this meeting will be a success. I think this person is quite interesting. I'm sorry for little sister Yin Bailun. She's a crybaby and is about to cry. You are the only one who would call her that. She is also a vampire with the title of destroying a nation. The Platinum Dragon King changed the subject, but this time it is indeed my fault. I didn't expect her perception to be so sharp. She must have a profession specialized in exploration. That's hard to say. You know that the players are all very strong. Take the team leader for example. The speed at which he becomes stronger is simply terrifying. Yes. I remember when I first met the team leader, his strength was not as good as that of an ordinary soldier, and he was weaker than anyone else. But in a very short period of time, he surpassed almost everyone, and his progress was amazingly fast. The Platinum Dragon King had already witnessed the power of the players. The dragon race fell from being the overlord to its current withered state because of the coming of the 8 Desire Kings. In one battle, the 8 Desire Kings almost slaughtered all the true Dragon Kings. Those who are still alive in the world are those who did not participate in that war. They have no idea of the horror of the players, so it is naturally impossible to count on them. Ligulet, I have something to ask of you. Tell me about it. There was a hint of girlish playfulness in Ligulet's words, and the Platinum Dragon King was quite helpless about it. However, he had lived for hundreds of years and was too bored. Such just the right amount of teasing made him feel very comfortable. His eyes turned to the sword. Although it was not sharp, the magical light flashing on it proved that it was definitely not an ordinary item. If he didn't have to guard the guild weapons of the 8 Desire Kings, he might have gone out for a walk. It's not a big deal, I just want you to help me investigate. When Sig reappeared, led by the maid, the room suddenly fell into an eerie silence. Ibarua stood up and said sincerely, I'm very sorry for concealing it before. In fact, I didn't know about this either. So? Sig's voice was a little cold. Actually, this was normal. Anyone who heard such an explanation would think it was an excuse. Ibarua let out a light cry, and her little face under the mask wrinkled. She felt that this person was very oppressive. She had obviously become much stronger. We have already discussed this. Gazef performed a standard greeting. Please accept the title of Silver Knight for the time being. Please. As the silence deepened, everyone's heart was in their throat. Well, let's do it this way. I have no objection. After hearing Sig's answer, everyone felt relieved. Although there were many twists and turns, the result was good after all. There is one thing I want to make clear in advance. I agreed to this mainly because I didn't want to expose my whereabouts. Don't get the wrong idea. Sig's slightly cold words did not make people feel uncomfortable. If he agreed just out of a sense of justice, it would arouse suspicion. It is also because of his honesty that people's evaluation of him is higher. Lakius invited with a smile, Sir, would you like to experience the life of an adventurer with us? Blue Rose is the highest level adamantite level adventurer and is indeed an authority in this area. Lana interrupted with a smile at the right time. It seems that he is speaking for a good friend, but in fact he is just introducing the basic situation to Sig and helping him make a judgment. Obviously, Lakius would not think of this, and she gave the other person a grateful look. No, I have other things to do. As Sig was about to leave, he seemed to have thought of something and said in a deep voice, Since you have decided to bear the title of hero, I will help if there are difficult enemies. Don't worry about dishonoring this title. As soon as these words were spoken, everyone felt admiration in their hearts, and even the Platinum Dragon King was stunned for a moment. Is it true that the world has welcomed another warrior of justice? When Sig returned to the lounge, Albedo immediately stood up and saluted, saying gently, Sir Sig, I have already locked onto the other party's position. Chapter 69. On the bustling streets of the kingdom, a man and a woman appeared standing side by side. Both of them were very outstanding in appearance, with black hair, black eyes, and fair skin. They both had an exotic charm that made passers-by look back frequently. Everyone thought that even in broad daylight, there would definitely be lecherous men approaching. But it is precisely because of this that guards are arranged. I really envy the person who was hired. Brian was a little flustered by the looks from everyone around him. He had enjoyed many people's applause for his outstanding swordsmanship, but he had never been so worried. He kept praying in his heart that no blind guy would come to disturb them, because the mood of these two people was related to the fate of the kingdom. Leave some way for people to survive. Albedo, can you hear me? Sig communicates in encrypted language, and only the people he designates can hear him. This is also the benefit of having a language-related career. It's like setting up a chat room and inviting whoever you want, but those who are excluded can't understand what they are saying at all. This was the first time he had used this skill since traveling through time, so it was necessary to experiment a bit. Albedo nodded flattered, a hint of shyness on her face. Wearing ordinary clothes did not diminish her beauty, but instead made her look even more charming. After hiding her wings and horns, she did not look out of place at all. Let's talk for a while then. Albedo twisted her waist slightly and said shyly, Is this what Sig-sama likes? Please feel free to say whatever you want. Sig looked puzzled, he just wanted to say thank you, what does it have to do with interest? However, he quickly concealed this expression. Albedo had been lonely for so many years, so it was normal for her to think about things that were not suitable for children. He couldn't be too harsh on her. I heard that many people like to seek excitement in crowded places. Please give me your orders, Lord Sig. Albedo is indeed a succubus, she makes such a shameful thing sound so easy, but there shouldn't be many people who have this fetish, and most of them are perverts. Sig said as gently as he could, I'm not in the mood to do this kind of thing on the street. If you like, wait until we get home. Really? Albedo asked softly, trying her best to maintain a normal voice. Well, I'll keep my promise. Sig feels that he has to take responsibility and cannot let Albedo suffer forever, so he will not escape anymore. However, he is a pure-hearted person and will definitely not have a harem. Lord Sig promised me, hee. Albedo lowered her head and shook her shoulders, laughing like a nympho, with the corners of her mouth wide open. Sig sighed when he saw this. If he didn't accept it, he would turn the person into a yandere. After meeting the Golden Princess, he deeply realized this. Being liked by a yandere is definitely not a good thing. Light a stick of incense for the little clem puppy. Let's get back to business. This is an emergency, and it's all thanks to you, Albedo. It is my honor to serve Lord Sig. My sister must think so too. I would like to give her regards. Albedo returned to her dignified appearance. Sig said, I remember that it takes a lot of effort to transmigrate. She lives in the frozen prison on the 5th floor. Yes, Lord Kuiyulo has set her up to like dolls and toys. Her mental state doesn't seem to be very stable, but her abilities are very reliable. Albedo smiled faintly, she has already locked onto the dragon's location and is monitoring it. She can attack at any time. The career structure of Nigrado is all investigation type, which is specially used to collect intelligence. It can lock the target in a very short time and continue to monitor it. Sig thought about it for a moment. He didn't know much about the Platinum Dragon King's strength. A Dragon King of level 90 or so didn't pose a threat, and he could handle it alone. However, the origin magic was a bit troublesome, so it would be safer to call Ainz. Don't take action against him yet, wait for a suitable opportunity, then wipe out the Dragon King in one fell swoop and control the Council of State. The reason for attacking the kingdom first is its superior geographical location. Its fertile land can produce enough food and facilitate trade with other countries. By turning the empire into a vassal, the theocracy can be isolated and helpless, and the sorceress kingdom will eventually unify the world. Let Nigreed continue to monitor and collect more intelligence on the enemy. I will take action myself when the time comes. Albedo was startled and almost knelt down subconsciously. Leave this matter to me. I dare not trouble Lord Sig. It's been a long time since I fought alongside the President. Let the Guardians watch our battle from the sidelines. Sensing the firmness in Sig's words, Albedo did not want to say anything more and just said reluctantly, as you wish. Walking into a jewelry store, Sig smiled and picked up a bracelet inlaid with gemstones. This feels pretty good. Do you want to try it? In the eyes of ordinary people, this bracelet is really too luxurious, and has a gaudy feel, just a pile of gems. Sig used to look down on this kind of thing, he liked practical things, but influenced by the race after the time travel, he liked shiny gems more. Albedo happily accepted it, put it on her slender, white wrist, raised her hand and asked, does it look good, Master Sig? Yeah, not bad. You two really have good taste. This bracelet is the treasure of our store. We won't sell it easily. A fat man with a big belly came over, with a cunning look on his face. I'm the store manager Nelson, and I've come here specially to greet you two. Albedo frowned slightly, dissatisfaction revealed in her eyes. Nelson pretended not to notice and said with a smile, you two are foreign guests. Those waiters don't know the etiquette, so it is most appropriate for me, as a viscount, to receive you. It's obvious that he wants to rip people off because he sees that they are rich and doesn't understand the market, but he speaks so confidently. Noticing Albedo's increasingly cold gaze, Brian felt something was wrong and reached out to pull Viscount Nelson aside. These two are guests of His Majesty the Emperor. I advise you to behave yourself. Your Majesty's guest. Nelson's eyes were full of suspicion, and he obviously didn't believe what he said. Even if that's the case, it's really rude of you to do this. You should let me receive you. Nelson straightened his clothes and assumed an aristocratic posture. Brian suddenly had a headache and said sinisterly, listen, I'm Brian Unglaus. If you continue to be stubborn, I will smash your store. You don't want to lose your store because of this little thing, do you? Nelson calmed down a little. It seemed that he had heard of this name before. He whispered, what you are doing is against the law. I don't care about the law, just sell it to them at the lowest price, please. All right. Nelson took out a handkerchief to wipe the sweat off his face. Nowadays, you can meet all kinds of people. Chapter 70. In addition to the bracelet, I believe this necklace also suits your taste. It can be considered another treasure of our store. The store manager Nelson took out another sparkling gem necklace and handed it to her with a smile. Although I promised not to overcharge people, I will not lose money if I sell it at the original price. I finally found a sucker and I can take this opportunity to sell these unsaleable goods. Sig took the necklace with a smile, looked at it carefully, and told him to pack it in a beautiful gift box. Nelson was overjoyed and recommended all kinds of luxurious jewelry. Everything inlaid with sparkling gems was bought, so his smile became even bigger. Thank you for your patronage. After leaving the store, Albedo asked in confusion, Master Sig, why did you buy so many gems? The prices in this store are obviously unreasonable. Let's just destroy it. Sig smiled and replied, this is a gift for everyone. The mates are all female, so they should like such gifts. As for the male guardians, buy something else. It is a great happiness to receive a gift from Lord Sig. Albedo said excitedly, a little anxiously. Sig motioned for her to calm down. Albedo, you've finally gone out. As the chief guardian, you should bring these gifts to them. It doesn't matter whether you use my name or not. They are just little gadgets from the human world. Can I consider this as my wife's responsibility, Lord Sig? Albedo slowly raised her head, which had been lowered, with anticipation in her eyes. Although his wife was a little too much, facing such an earnest look, Sig couldn't refuse and could only say, well, it's all right. Okay, then just leave this matter to me. After getting the affirmation, Albedo smiled gracefully, and her hand unconsciously touched the bracelet on her wrist, with the attitude of a complete winner. Brain broke out in a cold sweat as he watched this scene. If Shaltir knew. He took the initiative and said, Lord Sig, I am quite familiar with the capital, so let me lead the way. Sig nodded, okay, thank you for your help. Demiurge meant for Brian to take on this kind of role, so there was no need to refuse. This was his job, and Nazarick didn't want to keep people who lived off the land for free. Let's keep this jewelry store for now. It would be awkward to destroy one more target. I don't want to add unnecessary variables. Albedo was in a good mood at the moment. She raised her hand elegantly to tuck the dark hair behind her ear, a slight smile on her face. As you wish, Lord Sig is very thoughtful. Lead the way. The latter sentence was said to Brian. If they were not outside, he would definitely call him Shaltir's servant, but now he didn't care so much. Brian wiped a cold sweat, and he once again clearly realized who he was facing. A few casual words could decide the life and death of others. But he is no longer a human being. He has become a vampire, one of the monsters, and a betrayer of humanity. Sig didn't notice Brian's little thoughts, and of course he didn't need to care. What he was more concerned about now was the situation in the Empire. Pandora should be able to handle everything, so he wondered if he should go and take a look. In the luxurious box of the Imperial Arena, sat a blonde handsome man. He was the only emperor of the Empire, Jerkniv, also known as the Blood Emperor. Behind him followed two knights, namely his most trusted knights Wind Nimble Yaktil Anuk and Lightning Badged Pesham, who were responsible for protecting his personal safety. Sitting opposite were two members of the Dragon Slayer team, Rei and Nabe. As soon as he saw them, Jerkniv could not help but admire their beauty, which was even more outstanding than the rumors said. He was afraid that the Empire would never find women who could compare to them, and even his favorite concubines seemed unable to compare with them. However, for an emperor, ability should be more important than appearance. His most beloved concubine has talents comparable to those of a chief secretary. If the children born by his future wife are not as good as those born by his concubine, he will depose her without hesitation. The so-called family affection had disappeared when he first ascended to this position. His mother and brothers and sisters were all killed. From then on, Jerkniv paid the most attention to ability, no matter what the other party's identity was. It doesn't matter whether they are workers or civilians, as long as they can make the empire richer and stronger. After the efforts of the first 6 generations of emperors, the 7th generation of Blood Emperor was born. Jerkniv carries the future of the empire, and he will do anything to achieve this. This must be Lord Eli, I have heard of you for a long time. You are too polite. It is my honor to meet your majesty. Eli, who was originally sitting, stood up and performed a standard greeting. Eli greets your majesty. No need to be so polite. Jerkniv concealed the surprise in his eyes. He didn't expect that a traveling worker could be so good at etiquette. Eli raised his hand and pressed it on his chest, his tone very sincere. Your Majesty, why did you ask me to come? Since you are staying here, the affairs of the Empire are my affairs, and I have no choice but to do my duty. Jerkniv laughed heartily, but the smile did not reach his eyes. Before he could say anything, the other party took the initiative to mention his willingness to serve. Although it seemed like a good thing, things were going too smoothly. It made people feel uneasy, as if there was some conspiracy. However, no matter how arrogant one is, there is no way he would send out such a spy, and use such a flawed reason. Jerkniv politely declined, I do admire your strength, but it's not my style to trouble others at will. Of course, this is not a real rejection, it is just a test of the other party's reaction. I see. Your Majesty, do you not believe in my strength? I heard that the King of Martial Arts will appear today, and I also want to participate in this competition. Are you serious, sir? The King of Martial Arts is not an easy opponent to deal with, and there has never been a precedent of a magic chanter winning. Nimble couldn't help but speak. This man was introduced by his brother, so he didn't want Eli to die in vain, so he spoke out to remind him. If this gentleman wants to play, let him try. Badged looked like he was enjoying the fun. Jerkniv stroked his chin. In fact, he also wanted to see what the result would be. Dear audience, the King of Martial Arts tournament is about to begin, and His Majesty the Emperor will be here to watch. Now, please welcome our challenger, Lord Eli of the Dragon Slayer. The host's shout brought the atmosphere to a climax. That's Master Eli, the 5th rank magic chanter. But I heard that he can't use 5th tier magic proficiently. The chances of the King of Martial Arts winning are still very high. I think so. Magicians can't compare to warriors in direct combat. Everyone was chattering and discussing, all looking forward to the battle. We can't lose, Lady Pandora, Nabe said briefly. Lady Pandora, have you remembered the magic used by Lord Sig? Don't show off your strength too much. Lupus Regina laughed. Ah, Miss Nabe and Miss Lupus Regina, I will definitely not let Master Sig down. Pandora appeared in a flash using the flying method, holding a staff and pointing it at King Wu, and shouted in a somewhat exaggerated tone, Come on, King Wu. The audience's emotions were ignited once again and they started shouting. Nabe and Lupus Regina stood in the stands with helpless expressions on their faces. How should I put it? They felt very ashamed. Chapter 71. After learning that Sig himself had arrived in the kingdom's capital, Sebastian was ready to meet him. Soraka had the same idea and tried to show his best side. Only Kier seemed very nervous. She felt that the tables and chairs she had just wiped were still not clean, so she wiped them again and again. Don't be so nervous, swear. Sebastian gently reminded, Lord Sig is not the kind of person who treats his subordinates harshly. As long as they don't make mistakes, it's fine. Suyara clutched the hem of her skirt, but she was not comforted by this. She was more worried that Sebastian's future would be affected because of her. People like her should be grateful to be able to work here. As if he could see her thoughts, Sebastian lowered his voice and said, Don't be so self-deprecating. In my eyes, you are more attractive than the young lady. How can I compare with the young lady? I'm so dirty. She first became a concubine of a noble lord, and then was thrown into a shop, where she was bullied by countless people, even subhumans. If she had not been fortunate enough to be rescued by Lord Sebastian, she would have died with her broken body. Perhaps that was her fate. Sebastian said, Kier, you seem to be saying that you are dirty, but how do we judge the purity and dirtiness of humans? I don't think we can judge based on a person's experiences. What's important is the inner self. Through these days of getting along, I feel that you are very beautiful. Swear's bright blue eyes gradually lit up, as if she had made up her mind. She blinked her eyes and said, Lord Sebastian, can I kiss you again? This time I want to ask for your consent. After a brief silence, Sebastian nodded. Suo Liuxiang in the corner saw this scene. She wanted to report the information immediately, but she retreated silently and waited until Chi Yelei separated before she slowly walked out. Miss, do you have anything for me? Because Suo Liuxiang always stared at her silently and never spoke to her, Chi Yelei was always uneasy and asked in a low voice, Hello, Miss. Master Sebastian, be prepared to welcome him. Master Ainz is coming. Luxiang said expressionlessly, remember not to behave disrespectfully, swear. In the past, when there was an outsider like Kier around, Soruxiang had to always pretend to be a proud young lady, and only after she left could she reveal her true self. She was always annoyed by Sebastian's indecisive look. But now that Lord Sig has acknowledged the existence of this human, she no longer needs to maintain her previous attitude and remembered Swear's name, but that's the most she can do. Lord Ainz? What about Lord Sig? Sebastian asked anxiously. Sig-sama will be here later, as will Demiurge-sama, Cocytus-sama, and Shalter-sama. After a pause, Solulika continued, except for Nabe and Lupus Regina, all the members of the Pleiades are here too. A drop of cold sweat ran down Sebastian's forehead. It seemed that the plan was about to begin, but how should he explain it to Lord Ainz? He should also apologize. While deep in thought, Kier pulled at the corner of his clothes, revealed a firm look, and made an encouraging gesture. Come on, Lord Sebastian. Thank you. Sebastian's voice was gentle, and his hand gently stroked Swear's cheek. Seeing this, Soruxiang sighed with a slightly complicated expression, because she really didn't understand, but when she heard Lord Demiurge say that he could add new strength, she decided to help a little. This is Sebastian's residence. This is my first time here, Ainz. Hearing the visitor's signature voice, Sebastian greeted him, Welcome, Lady Shaltir. Shaltir walked in holding a small umbrella, her pair of red eyes emitting a seductive gaze, moving back and forth between Sebastian and Swear, making the latter blush. Suo Liuxiang's beauty is already the best in the kingdom, comparable to the Golden Princess, but the girl in front of him is not fully grown yet and looks a little young, but her unparalleled beauty is simply indescribable, and her full breasts are also very enviable. Alas, didn't I tell you not to address me as sir? After all, we are all servants created by the Supreme Being. Shaltir covered her mouth and giggled, her every frown and smile revealing her charm. Then she moved instantly, lifted Swear's chin with her overly white and slender fingers, and licked the corner of her mouth. This must be the human that Demiurge mentioned. Sebastian wanted to speak out to stop them, but then he saw the dark figure at the door and immediately half-knelt and saluted, Greetings, Lord Ainz. Ainz waved his hand, Shaltir, stop playing around. She is a human that Sebastian has protected. You can't be rude to her. As you command. Shaltir clapped her hands to remove the charm, then slowly walked behind Ainz and said with a smile, I have no ill intentions, I am just curious. Sebastian, you don't have to worry so much. Sebastian will get angry if you keep talking like that. Demiurge, wearing a striped suit, walked out of the portal and said jokingly. Sebastian lowered his head, I don't dare. Demiurge smiled but said nothing. Cocytus then came in, letting out a puff of cold air between breaths. There was a strange atmosphere between the two of them, and even Ainz noticed it, so he said, Sig-san will be here soon, let's contact Liuxiang. Suo Liuxiang nodded, reached into the exposed skin on his chest, and pulled out a scroll. Her race is slime. Her beautiful appearance is just a mimicry. In fact, her interior is hollow and can store and classify items. Of course, it can also separate and imprison and abuse humans, which is very convenient. Ainz was actually very curious as well and looked at it a few more times unconsciously. But when he came to his senses, he immediately looked away. He had to maintain his dignity as the ruler of Nazarick. Cocytus sighed, I haven't seen Master Sig in a long time since the battle with the lizardman. I miss Lord Sig so much, too. Shaltir said resentfully. Brian doesn't know how to use text messages, so it's really difficult to contact him. It's a real headache. Demiurge pushed up his glasses and gave Sebastian a meaningful look. Lord Ainz, how about taking this opportunity to decide on Sebastian's next mission? My ranch happens to be short of people to cook, so let this human come and help. Out of respect for the ruler, Sig did not decide where Swear would go, but only promised to keep her. The final decision was still in the hands of Ainz, which was also why Sebastian was so frightened. I think Swear can work in Nazarick. Her cooking skills are indeed good. I'm afraid that kind of food is not suitable for Nazarick. The two-legged sheep on the ranch are omnivorous animals, so they are just right. The two of them were undoubtedly arguing, and Ainz was lost in his own thoughts as before, when footsteps were heard. Welcome, Lord Sig. Chapter 72. No need to be polite, just be casual. The footsteps came from far away, and the shoes made a clattering sound as they touched the marble floor. Sig walked in wearing a black suit, his tail swaying slightly as he walked, a calm smile on his face, and every move he made showed his elegance and strength. All the guardians stood up at the same time. Yes, sir. Albedo followed closely behind, took off her clothes, and transformed back into the beautiful demon in a pure white dress. She bowed to Ainz. Ainz immediately asked her to stand up and turned to cast an apologetic look at Sig, thinking of his former companion. Ainz did not stop the two from arguing. Sig-san would definitely think that he was unreliable. Ahem, let's get down to business now. What do you think of Swear's arrangement, Sig-san? Sig seemed a little helpless. Since he felt sorry, he shouldn't push the problem to him. Especially the quarrel between Demiurge and Sebastian, which in a way is a continuation of the producer. He doesn't want to be a peacemaker anymore. Having said that, Sig would not just ignore it. He couldn't let his own president embarrass himself. I think we don't need to decide on her specific affiliation for now. Just let her follow Sebastian first. Ainz stroked his chin. Well, that's an option, but it's better to give him a position. He looked at the anxious Kier. If she had nothing to do, she would definitely live in fear all day long. It would be better to give her a job so that she could have a real sense of belonging. There is still a mission for Sebastian to do, so it's not like he has nothing to do. It's just right for the two of us to act together. Sig looked Ainz straight in the eyes, although he didn't have eyes either, just a pair of red dots. In addition to the Kingdom Empire and the Theocracy, there is also the Dragon Kingdom among human nations. However, that country is very mysterious. I want Sebastian to go and investigate it and prepare for the invasion. Ainz exclaimed inwardly. After calming himself down, he asked tentatively in a low voice, it seems a bit too fast. I've heard that Sig is efficient, but I didn't expect him to be so efficient. Is he really going to rule the world? He's not ready yet. Not fast, right? Sig was stunned for a moment, and said solemnly, except for the unknown Iliuentiu, also known as Sky City, no one can stop us. While the Dragon Kingdom is besieged by orcs, we can take it into our pockets. The reason why Ainz was so timid in the past was because he had no idea who was controlling Shaltir with the world-class item. Out of caution against an unknown and powerful enemy, he moved his plan forward slowly. But now is different from the past. Sig did not let Shaltir be controlled. There is espionage in the Theocracy, and the location of the Platinum Dragon King has been exposed. It's like choosing the best option in a game, everything is accelerated and you just have to move forward. Ainz felt a little dizzy and nodded mechanically. He was still working hard to become a qualified ruler of Nazarick. To rule the world all at once was too big a step. From crawling to running, no, it feels even more outrageous than this. Think about it again. At least go slower, Sig-san. I can't bear it. Ainz raised his hands desperately, wanting to say something. Sig sat down next to him and gave him an encouraging look. His lips moved, but no sound came out. But Ainz could read lips, and he chewed on these 3 words with tears in his eyes. You're welcome. As expected of the Supreme Being. Demiurge said with admiration, and the others also exclaimed in admiration. Saying things like ruling the world, stupid humans, the Supreme Being is the greatest and so on. As he listened, Ainz felt like crying even more. Sig took a sip from the teacup and exhaled a breath of hot air comfortably. Demi-Yugos, you take care of the details. Everyone should do your own thing and don't panic. Demiurge took a step forward and bowed respectfully. My demon general will summon his subordinate demons to act as the vanguard of the attack to confuse the view. The Pleiades will assist in the operation, plunder the property, and deal with those who get in the way. As for the main force, Shaltir suddenly spoke up, my 2 supremes, I would like to recommend myself. Demiurge frowned, Shaltir, I will do it myself. You are not suitable for this mission. In terms of strength, I am not bad. Shaltir did not back down. She wanted to share the worries of the Supreme Being instead of just doing chores. Ainz was very pleased that Shaltir had her own ideas. He always unconsciously favored some of his good friend Pararon Sino's children. He made the decision right away, okay, I agree that Shaltir will be the main force. Demiurge swung his tail anxiously, but since the Supreme Being had already agreed, there was nothing he could say. Sig smiled helplessly. He understood Ainz's idea. In fact, it didn't matter who was the main force. The kingdom had no existence that could threaten the Great Tomb. But for Demiurge, who pursues perfection in everything, this will indeed make him distressed for a long time. Demiurge, just do your job well. I believe in your ability. Demiurge's eyes suddenly lit up as he thought of something. I understand, Master Sig. Sig's eyelids twitched. What do you know? Soon it was time to say goodbye. Sebastian had to rush to the Dragon Kingdom, so naturally he had to travel non-stop. He would not participate in the plan to attack the capital this time. For Kier's safety, the sooner they leave, the less likely it is to cause trouble. They also received gifts from Albedo, which they could take with them on their journey. Sebastian's clothes were women's, all loose and in one size, just enough for Tswear to wear, while Soraka got jeweled jewelry suitable for a noble lady. Although it is not a very precious item, it is enough as a souvenir, not to mention that it was selected by the Supreme Lord. That girl looks a bit like someone I know. Ainz stood by the window and watched them leave. Sig casually said, she is the sister of the girl from the Black Sword. After thinking for a few seconds, Ainz exclaimed, oh, could it be that Mare is a girl? Yeah, didn't she say she had a sister who was kidnapped by a noble? This makes sense, and they look alike. But how do you know she's a woman? I have the skills to identify gender. Ainz was shocked. You actually have such a perverted skill. What on earth do you want to do, Sig-san? What can I do? I was just kidding. Sig laughed a few times, and suddenly realized, I have no interest in non-humanoid creatures. Ainz looked as if he understood. Sig waved his hands helplessly, forget it, let's not talk about this anymore, let's get down to business. Thinking of the trouble, Ainz sighed, this is the first time we've actively attacked humans. I wonder if the plan will go smoothly. Although they had experience in attacking lizardmen, the other party was not human after all. They always felt uncomfortable when attacking their former fellows. Sig did not try to persuade him further. He simply patted Ainz on the shoulder and said, President, you just need to remember that this is all for the great tomb of Nazarick. As a ruler, you cannot be soft-hearted. Ainz nodded solemnly, his eyes glowing red, I understand. Why are you sending gifts in the name of Sig-sama's wife? It's not acknowledged yet. Shalter's sharp voice came from inside the house. Of course Lord Sig acquiesced. Are you jealous? Albedo's gentle voice made people feel no malice if you ignored her expression at that moment. You are taking advantage of the situation and relying on your ability to serve by my side to get to the top. If I were. Shalter's voice was intermittent, and the sound of her biting her nails could be heard. Albedo was in a victorious posture at this moment. Lord Sig doesn't like women who are fickle, especially those who are beautifully packaged exhibits that can only be viewed. What qualifications do you have to criticize me, an expired food? You haven't lost your sexual desire, have you? I have many skills and my body is excellent enough. You. The two originally wanted to check the pre-war preparations, but they didn't expect to encounter such a thing. Ainz laughed and said, Sig-san is very popular. Albedo and Shaltir are both good women. I feel relieved to leave them to you. Sig turned his head sharply to look at Ainz, with some inexplicable emotions in his eyes, and suddenly smiled, that's true. After that, he opened the door, strode to the sofa and sat down, patted the seats on both sides, and said in a low voice, come and sit down. Looking at Sig, who was hugged by two men, Ainz was certain that the man in front of him seemed to have awakened some extraordinary strange attribute. At this moment, a rustling sound suddenly came from not far outside the house. Demiurge pushed his glasses down, his eyes filled with murderous intent, excuse me for a moment. Chapter 73. The room was pitch black and extremely quiet. It seemed that one could hear even a pin drop. It was no exaggeration to say that it was dead silent. As one of the 6 arms of the 8-finger guard, 1000 Killers Malmvist is a young man with red hair and wearing rather gorgeous clothes embroidered with gold thread. At this moment, he is standing on a high ground outside the hotel. Seeing that it was getting late, he did not hesitate and ordered the assassins he had trained to take action. Although he looked depressed, he showed a smile that showed he was determined to succeed. Those guys are really good at bossing people around. They even need me to step in on this matter. Let's make it quick and easy. After completing the task of capturing the prostitute, he must enjoy the service of the beautiful blonde lady. As for the housekeeper, it would be fine to beat him half to death. After all, someone has to pay the ransom. Seeing the assassins enter the room silently without making any loud noise during the action, he secretly counted the seconds in his heart. It would probably only take 5 minutes to deal with 2 powerless women and an older housekeeper. If it took longer than that, he would have to give them a good scolding. As time passed, Kyuncha's smile soon could no longer be maintained, because from some point on, a creepy aura began to come from behind him. Turning around, a girl appeared there at some point, her silver hair sparkling in the moonlight, her watery silver eyes emitting a charming glow. Kyuncha was so surprised that he was speechless. The animal desire that had just risen up in his head was forcibly suppressed. For such a beautiful person, he did not immediately feel the most instinctive male desire. The word bewildered best described his state at the moment. Shaltir gave a lewd smile. You must be the leader of those assassins, can I negotiate with you? Kyuncha recovered, and his qualities as a master were revealed at this time. I am the 6-armed Kyuncha Mambest who belongs to 8 fingers. Who are you? Oh, so you are the target. I wanted to kill you just to tease you. Could you please come with me? The master wants to see you. Kyuncha quietly touched the hilt of the sword. His sword rose thorn was a weapon specially designed for stabbing, and the tip of the sword was coated with deadly poison. At such a close distance, as long as he could inflict a minor injury like a scratch, he would be able to kill the opponent. At this time, he was still confident that he could escape, so he did not show too much fear. Miss, who are you talking about? If you don't understand, I'm sorry I can't obey you. This is not something you can decide. While Shaltir was speaking, the tip of an icy sword suddenly pierced her face. She simply raised her little finger, and the nails and the sword blade made a metallic collision sound, but she could not move forward any further. Not as good as a nail clipper, but it should be a good thrust for a human. With Brian as a reference, she could have a rough estimate of the human's strength. Ever since she learned from Demiurge that Lord Sig likes smart and capable women, Shaltir has put in a lot of effort. How is this possible? Monster! You are a monster! Kyuncha was stunned, feeling puzzled, despair and fear at the same time. He activated the movement acceleration magic on his enchanted boots and turned around to escape. Then a figure came from behind and knocked him to the ground. Qian Sha fell into a coma. The other party said respectfully, Lady Shaltir, I am very sorry to disturb your interest. Lord Sig hopes that you will go back soon. After hearing the last sentence, Shaltir's originally unhappy expression immediately brightened up, so it was Lord Sig's order. I will go back to see him right away. She didn't want to think about anything else, she just knew that Lord Sig cared about her, and she was so happy. Seeing the other party carrying the body of Chisatsu expressionlessly, Shaltir smiled and said, You must be Clementine, the human following in Sama. I heard that you were preaching Sig Sama's religion. Clementine then smiled, her eyes becoming more fanatical, yes. Shaltir looked her up and down. Even though she had awakened a new profession under Demiurge's experiment, due to the limitation of her race, Clementine's strength would not exceed level 40 at most. She really couldn't be entrusted with such an important task. Do you want to become stronger? I am not only a magic caster of faith, but also a vampire ancestor. I can help you transform into a vampire. Clementine was stunned for a moment, as if she was thinking about the feasibility of the matter. She could not disobey her master's orders. Just do as Shaltir says. The two looked over at the same time, and saw 2 people wearing silver-white full-body armor and black armor walking out of the room. It was Sig and Ainz, followed by Albedo. Yes, sir. Clementine reacted quickly and knelt down immediately. Sig nodded. Then I'll leave it to you, Shaltir. Shaltir replied happily, it is my honor to be able to help Master Sig. Next, follow the plan and remember to disguise yourself. Ainz instructed like an old father. Clementine, hand the captured man over to Albedo and ask her to take him with her when she returns to Nazarick. Clementine reluctantly handed over Kyuncha. She had originally planned to torture him herself, which was one of her few joys. Albedo smiled widely, and the look in her eyes when she looked at Shaltir was no longer so hostile. Her posture was completely like that of a winner. Shaltir felt that something must have happened during the time she was out. She should have stayed by Lord Sig's side. She was too careless. As expected, Albedo pursed her lips and said, Lord Sig, can we have another farewell kiss? The atmosphere suddenly became stagnant. Shaltir's hands, which were clutching her skirt, trembled slightly, as if she was about to cry, her eyes were watery. Farewell, farewell kiss? Seeing that the fight was about to break out again, Sig had to step in to stop it. I'm wearing full body armor now, I guess there's no way I can do it. Albedo, you should go back first. Yes. Albedo naturally said nothing more, walked into the portal, and disappeared. Shaltir, don't be sad. I don't want to see you crying. Sig gently lifted Shaltir's chin and spoke softly. Sig adult. Sig leaned close to Shaltir's ear and said, remember not to fall into blood frenzy. If you complete it, I will give you a separate reward. Shaltir nodded vigorously and instantly transformed into a Valkyrie, wearing blood-red armor and holding a dropper spear, except for a mask on her face. I will definitely not let Lord Sig and Lord Ainz down. She laughed excitedly and flew into the air. Ainz asked with some concern, is this state okay? Sig smiled without saying anything, looking at the flames rising into the sky in the distance. Since he was going to attack, he might as well make the scene bigger. A short pain is worse than a long one. He wanted to take over the kingdom as quickly as possible. Chapter 74. While Shaltir was destroying crazily, the Maid Corps also acted very quickly. The insect followers and low-level servant demons summoned by Entima transported all the property looted by Eight Fingers to Nazarick. While the battle was in full swing, Nazarick had already made a fortune. The six-armed warrior who was in charge of security was simply handed over to Brian. He was originally one of the best warriors in the kingdom. After transforming into a vampire, his abilities were improved qualitatively. Even the current warrior captain might not be able to withstand his attack. However, Brian did not go forward to challenge him or reveal his strength. Brain, as a human, is dead. Now he is just a lackey of the monster. Having betrayed humanity, he will never be able to defeat Gazef. Master Brain, please be careful. If necessary, please abandon me and run away, Climb said firmly. Brian's face was odd for a moment. Another mission of his trip was to protect Climb. While destroying Eight Fingers, he also wanted to give him some merits and improve his status in the kingdom. Don't say such things. I won't abandon my companions. Cheer up. I'm so sorry. Climb looked ashamed. It turned out that he was much worse than Brain in terms of awareness. Brian hummed absent-mindedly, wondering how much force he should use later. Even Princess Lana has betrayed him, and the kingdom is really doomed. Climb, who knows nothing, still thinks he is a knight of justice, not knowing that his respected senior only regards this as a master's mission. Ah ha 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 ha, this is awesome. Shaltir looked at her masterpiece and laughed wildly in the air. Everywhere were the wailing sounds of humans and bright red blood, which made her blood boil. She wanted to kill more and make a river of blood flow. But thinking of Sig's promise, she shook her head violently, raised her hand and patted her face, trying to calm herself down. We have come this far, we must not give up. Then she raised her slender arm, and a ball of light condensed in her palm. The next target is the royal city. This skill must be released skillfully, and those three people must not be killed. 9th tier magic Scarlet Nova. As Shaltir muttered, the royal city fell into hell. Protect the king. Protect the king. The guards shouted as they crowded around old King Rambuza III. The scorching air made it almost impossible for them to open their eyes, and the armor on their bodies was so hot that they could not touch it, as if it was stuck to their skin. But as knights, they did not retreat a single step and stood firmly by the king's side. The turbid eyes of Rambuza III reflected the raging flames and the pillars of fire that stood like hurricanes. He could hardly imagine the state of the people in the flames. The palace he was in was merely affected, and many people's skin was burned. What about the people who were actually attacked? The fearless first prince was no longer stubborn at this moment. Father, let's leave quickly, the fire will soon be approaching here. Yes, let's go quickly, your majesty. Maybe the monster will attack here next time. The noble man with scars on his face shouted anxiously. A horse came galloping from a distance. After seeing the person on the horse, everyone realized that it was the second prince wearing armor. It was hard to imagine why he had such courage to shuttle through the sea of fire. Father, please retreat quickly. The warrior captain is already gathering the troops. The streets are full of demons now. Please be careful. Demon. Rambuza III was very shocked to hear the news. So it was the demon that attacked this time? Yes, there is another enemy in the air wearing bright red full-body armor. The adamantium-level adventurers are already trying to find a way to deal with it. King Rambuza III sighed deeply, showed a somewhat disappointed expression to the first prince, and then told the second prince, be careful. Father, I The first prince was about to retort but was stopped by the scarred nobleman beside him, who shook his head. This is not the time to show off. If the second prince dies, the first prince will be able to ascend the throne no matter what. Even if he is lucky enough to survive, he has only been favored. Who the throne will be passed to in the end will depend on who has the strongest supporters. There is no need to take risks. The first prince clenched his fists, gritted his teeth and said nothing. Although he looked like he refused to admit defeat, he was also glad that he had not said what he had just said. Now that he had a reason, he felt a lot more relaxed. Lana stood aside, watching all this silently, with a strange smile on her face. The collapse is about to begin. Time is almost up. Sig leaned on his sword and looked indifferently at the people trapped in the sea of fire. There was no ripple in his heart. This is the advantage of neutral justice value. Originally, Shaltir could have been the protagonist this time, with the storyline of the Silver Knights fighting against vampires, but considering that the kingdom will be ruled by Ainz in the future, it would be best not to let the kingdom's residents have too much resistance to the undead, so the main force is still the demons. Humans simply cannot tell whether Shaltir is a vampire or a demon, so they just need to guide them to believe that Shaltir is the most intimidating ultimate boss, and then they can solve the problem and become heroes. By then, everything will be natural. Even if someone doubts what happened tonight, they will not dare to say anything. This is the deterrent of powerful strength. Soon, the shadow demon in charge of delivering the message knelt before him. Master Sig, Master Demiurge has judged that now is the best time to enter the scene. Please move. Sig nodded, stood up and dusted himself off. Lead the way. When he arrived at the scene, the street had been flooded by a tide of demons. He raised his long knife and cleared a path like chopping melons and vegetables, and came to the adventurers like a god descending from the sky. Why are there demons in the capital? Logi's eyes sparkled, and her struggling body began to gain strength. It's Sir Silver Knight. Silver Knight? Really? It's a real person. The adventurers cried out in varying degrees of surprise, all looking as if they were saved. Can you tell me a little bit about the current situation? Let me tell your excellency. A man in black armor stood up, with a little blonde girl who had been sticking to him for some reason. Sig's tone sounded familiar, as if he knew the person. Oh, you are the adventurer Fifei? I've heard people around me talk about you. I didn't expect that my name would be remembered by the famous Silver Knight, but unfortunately now is not the time to chat, otherwise I would definitely ask for an autograph. Let me explain the situation. After a round of business exaggeration between the two, they finally got to the point. Ibarua's face under the mask was full of obsession. Lord Fifei was indeed the most powerful warrior, and that impostor had good vision. I see. I already understand the situation. Leave it to me from now on. A large part of the reason why it was difficult to deal with enemies in the air was that there were no people who could fight at such high altitudes. However, when the Silver Knight caused a commotion, some soldiers witnessed his flying ability, so no one objected when Sig said this. Only the legendary hero, the Silver Knight, could find a solution to this predicament. Chapter 75. Under the gaze of everyone, the silver armor turned into a stream of light and flew into the sky at a high speed. An adventurer exclaimed, "This should be a high-level flying skill. The speed is so fast that even the 5th level can't do it." This statement was affirmed by everyone. Even Ibarua had to admit that this man named Sigli Hrasvag did have some strength. He looks like a warrior, but he is skilled in using magic, which is absolutely impossible for ordinary humans to do. Could it be a god? Among those who inherit the bloodline of the players, sometimes there will be powerful people who awaken their powers. The church calls them gods. To be precise, a god-man refers to someone who inherits the bloodline of the 6 gods. There is no unified name for people who inherit the bloodline of other players, and using the term god-man to refer to them is a habit of most people. Of course, Ibarua has no hostility towards the Komato, because she suspects that Lady Maman may also be a Komato. Saving her from the devil's hands touched her heart, which had not been moved for 100 years. She really didn't want to let this man leave. Ainz noticed that Ibarua was looking at him, and asked, "What's wrong?" Ibarua's face turned red under the mask, and she shouted excitedly, "Master Fifei! Fate is truly marvelous." Even though the plot has changed, the brave Fei still captured the heart of the girl. Should we say that this is the wonderful attraction between the undead? Ainz didn't understand what was going on, so he just hummed instinctively. "Please take over the command on the ground." As a member of King Kyangwei, Ibarua's behavior is very inappropriate, especially when Logis is right next to her. If the leader is narrow-minded, he will probably give him a cold shoulder on the spot and look for an opportunity to kick him out of the team. Lacey's nodded in agreement. I agree. The only 2 elite steel teams here have already expressed their opinions, and the rest of the people have no objections. They look at the Black Knight with expectant eyes. Okay, I'll do my best, everyone just follow my lead. The man's deep voice gave people a sense of security. The adventurers present became more motivated, raised their weapons in response, and shouted in unison to cheer. Fei, who is Ainz under the armor, is still a little uncomfortable with such a passionate scene. He feels a little embarrassed and is also worried that he will not perform well. Sig is always calm, he probably doesn't have such troubles. On the other side, Sig was floating in the air, overlooking the entire royal capital by looking down. The dilapidated scene did not arouse his sympathy. This is the result of my subordinates' hard work, how can I pour cold water on it? He smiled slightly, it's really too much, destroying the capital like this. The girl in the bright red armor looked over, her eyes filled with bloodthirsty madness. Ha ha ha, Lord Sig, I did a good job, didn't I? High in the sky, with Nigret's power preventing surveillance, the 2 of them didn't have to act and could talk casually. Sig was never stingy with praise. You didn't fall into blood frenzy, and you completed the mission perfectly. You did a great job, Shaltir. Shaltir's pretty face flushed slightly, her breathing became heavier, the wings behind her trembled slightly, and her high-pitched voice seemed to pierce her eardrums. I love Lord Sig the most. Sig smiled helplessly. Shaltir's mental state was indeed not very good. This was a defect of her race. Pararon Sino designed Shaltir to be an NPC specialized in combat, with relatively low intelligence. Because the settings are too complete and all aspects have been finalized, it is difficult to improve intelligence through learning. In general, she is like a silly beauty, and is actually quite cute. Sig extended his hand to Shaltir, and responded to her passionate confession with gentlemanly etiquette. Beautiful lady, may I invite you to dance with me? Shaltir clenched the dropper spear in her hand and came forward excitedly. Sir Sig, it's an honor. The view from below was a different scene. The blood-red demon rushed towards the Silver Knight, and a fierce battle seemed to be about to break out. In fact, this was indeed the case. Accompanied by a huge roar, a gorgeous firework exploded in the sky. Magic Super Enhancement, Vermilion Nova. With both power and strong visual effects, fire magic is the best choice. Divine Light Protection. A faint golden light appeared on Sig's body. It was a special skill of the Holy System, enough to offset a 9th-order magic attack. Even after being attacked, Sig's voice was still gentle. Shaltir, let's enjoy a real fight together. Shaltir felt a flash of electricity through her body, and the stimulating feeling rushed straight to her head. Ah, thank you, Supreme Lord, for forgiving my presumptuous behavior. I will definitely give you the most perfect performance. If Shaltir was in a normal state, she probably wouldn't even dare to attack, but as she gradually lost her sanity, the only thought in her mind was to complete the mission. Sig laughed loudly and transformed his hands into claws while keeping the rest of his body unchanged. Physical armor. Dragon Claw is an alien race, the body can be used as a weapon, but it is much more fragile than a divine weapon. Master Sig, here I come. Shaltir rushed over quickly, raised her dropper spear and stabbed at Sig, stirring up a gust of wind filled with the smell of blood. The tip of the gun was getting closer and closer, and as a PvP veteran, Sig naturally wouldn't fight hard. The ability of the dropper lance can be described as vicious. It can restore HP in proportion to the damage caused, just like a blood-sucking mosquito, and it is a perfect match for the true ancestor vampire race. Pararon Sino really put a lot of effort into creating Shaltir. If they could meet again, Sig really wanted to praise him in person. Dragon's magic eye. Sig's eyes under the armor turned into golden vertical pupils, flashing with a strange light. Shaltir's eyes suddenly glazed over and she paused. Sig seized the opportunity, dodged the gun tip by leaning sideways, and lightning flashed at his fingertips. 7th level Chain Dragon Thunder. Dragon-shaped lightning leaped rapidly and directly hit Shaltir. A blazing pillar of lightning lit up the sky, almost illuminating the entire sky. Shaltir was bathed in lightning. Under full armor, the 7th level magic did little damage to her, just like a tickle, but she was still very confused. Master Sig, how can you use thunder magic? Aren't you a divine system? Sig squinted at the crowd below who were looking up in amazement, and said with an inexplicable smile, "It's just a magic scroll. The power of this magic is average, but the visual effect is good. It feels very suitable for such a grand scene." On the roof of the tallest building in the capital, Demiurge, wearing a mask, stood there like a shadow. The striking lightning illuminated his face for a moment. "Lord Sig is really gorgeous." The shadow demon emerged from the shadows. "Lord Demiurge, the capture of the two-legged sheep is going very smoothly. Currently, 80% has been transferred. Don't take this lightly, this is an important resource. The Holy Kingdom's two-legged sheep have been almost used up. This time, we must capture a sufficient number of the kingdom's two-legged sheep to maintain the normal operation of the ranch." "Yes." The shadow demon slowly sank into the darkness, as if it had never been there. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel so you are notified of future uploads. You can find the next parts in the playlist visible on the screen or on my channel. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.